Okay, it's 6:04. I'd like to call this meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please stay standing for a moment of silence as we think about those who've gone before us. Thank you. Yeah, I'll mention that. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Good sitting here. All right. Roll call,
Trustee
please.
Pine is not here.
Not here.
Trustee Lewis.
Here.
Trustee Bushner.
Oh, I'm here.
Trustee Patton.
Here.
Trustee O'Malley.
Here.
And Deputy Mayor Ryan is not.
Yes, and he is in our thoughts as his mother-in-law passed away over the weekend. It's very unfortunate.
Also present is Attorney Gilchrist.
Yep, and Attorney Engel will be here eventually. Okay, I want to start with a few correspondence and announcements. First off, Rock the Block. Paula, you are here to inform us on everything related. Take it away, please.
Good evening all, my name is Paula Camperman. I'm one of the team members involved in putting together this year's Rock the Block, the third one that we've done. And it's a basically community-wide celebration where we just get everybody together and have a good time, share a meal, and catch up with each other. This year's event is happening tomorrow night. That's August 8th, starting at 4 o'clock with some chalk drawing on Everly Way for kids or other creative folks.
Nice.
And then followed by a meal at 6 p.m. until 7:30 when the community band concert begins. Basically, is everyone bring their favorite dish. Monolith Solar has again graciously agreed to provide barbecue meals for 320 people. And so they will have a group cooking starting at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning in front of the park to get the meals cooked together. And then we ask that everyone that comes bring a dish to share and a chair or a blanket, someplace to sit. We will provide a limited number of tables and chairs for those that need some seating, elderly or handicapped folks to give it. It is going to be reserved for them, give them the opportunity to sit down. It's just a great way to share your favorite recipe as well. And then we clean up, get the street cleaned up and left for traffic to come through starting at 7:30 again. So tonight what I'm requesting is that we have the street on Main, between Elm and Wilder Avenue to be blocked off between the hours of 5 and 7:30. The exception being that we allow a postal truck delivery that comes in shortly after 5 p.m. to get through and then exit the parking lot.
It's already been taken care of. Neil and I have already communicated back and forth.
Great.
Yep.
We'll probably be shutting it down around 4:30.
Okay, all right.
We'll let whoever has to come through has to come through.
Okay,
And we'll probably keep it shut down to after 8.
all right, great.
We'll make sure everybody's out.
And we still need a formal vote to approve all this?
There is a contingency, just so we know, that in the event that it does look like it's going to storm or open up, Mr. Gallard and I are in communication with each other, which will make a decision around 3 o'clock. If it still looks like there's a potential for heavy downpour or storms,
Okay.
it'll be moved to the rink and then all this is moot.
Yes.
But, yeah, that's what we're hoping
Okay.
for. And we'll just get the word out everywhere we can to help people understand.
If you move it to the ring,
If you come to the downtown, there's no
It's
tables.
under the rink and we don't need to have any
Head to the ski.
block.
well, we're
Sure.
still going to have to concern ourselves with people coming down for the chicken. So we'll still
Yeah, but I mean,
maintain.
we won't have to ask for road closure is what I mean.
No, well, no, but we'll probably do something. I don't want to see.
Yeah,
We'll
we could do some
take care. We're going to be out, we'll have everything ready to go.
Okay, thank
So we'll
you.
be ready to do, we're
Okay.
gonna shut the road down no matter what.
Okay.
And then we'll open it.
Okay, all right.
All right. Andy, we need a formal vote to approve all this, I'm assuming?
Yep, including, and that's a village road, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, including the road closure.
All right, looking for a motion to approve this, including the road closure.
I'll make the motion.
Ben,
Second.
second Vanessa. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to hopefully seeing all of you tomorrow night.
We'll be saying our no rain prayers tonight.
For rain dance tomorrow morning.
I also have a request for the annual Memorial 5K Steve Colvin Road Race. Do we have that email handy?
I do.
Great. Thank you.
She emailed this back in, I think, late July. I want to make sure that we have this on the meeting. She's looking to do this on Saturday, October 13th, 2018. 13th. And they want to use the same town-approved, village-approved route that we've used in the past. Set up at 7 a.m. with the road race beginning at 9, completion and cleanup by 11 a.m. She has adult volunteers to assist with traffic if needed, and the varsity football team volunteers under Ron Jones' guidance each year as well.
What date is that again?
Saturday, October 13th, 2018.
And they're using, you say that they're using the same route.
Yeah. Neil, is that the...
Last year they started at Munsell and crossed Abbott.
Yeah, I remember that, but I remember the one year they went the other way on us.
That was, I think, to avoid...
The first year was,
What's
they
that?
went over Clay Hill.
But we're going back to the route that we
Yeah.
established for other ones.
Yeah.
Oh, so are you talking about the route starts at Munsell, or the route that starts at the park
The
here?
route started at the park last year.
Well, it starts at Munsell, it kinda ends at Park, but it loops by the park.
No, there's one that starts right here at the park and
And
kicks
it
off
goes all the way up?
runs
For the
this.
Cure.
What's that?
That's
Race.
Race for the Cure. That one starts in the park.
Called
But I
Iron
will-
last year was started at the park.
They started at the
I ran
park.
the Calden race, it started at the park.
This email here says last year.
I was in it, I don't know.
Oh, you know what? This is
So basically,
last
they're
year's
both
email,
the same
that's why.
route, it's just the starting point is different,
Resend them.
correct? The, for Main Street
Yeah.
versus Munsell?
Yeah, they
Well, we
went,
need to know.
they went from the
Yeah.
park through down to John Street, down
I would-
Church, and then back up, and then all the way up to his.
Which one do you prefer? I think they may want to prefer starting here again.
Me too, cause I don't know when
It
the
doesn't
top
block
is
off
gonna
the
get
hill.
done on Abbott Street.
Okay. Okay. So then you're okay with them starting here, like okay,
Yeah.
that's perfect. Okay, so
Let me know.
Cause it's a quick, usually 5-10 minutes by the time they
yes.
get off.
Yep.
22 crack and
Yep. Okay.
so.
Any other questions, comments? Looking for a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Brian and second Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. I will reach out and make sure they know that we're going to use that same course again, Neil, that we used last year. Okay. I'll make notes for a minute here. Sorry. Oh, one more thing, Brian and Paula. Do we have a Facebook post out for Rock the Block?
Yes, there's a page, and it was posted both on the Hoosick,
Town and Village page?
it's on the town and village
Okay,
page.
good.
And it was also on the Hoosick, the
One of the
Facebook-
other,
Yeah, the one
yeah.
that's got about 500 members on it.
Okay. All right.
It's like
Starts.
just
community
about
post.
500 groups.
Yeah.
All right.
Posted.
I have a few updates I wanted to pass on, and these are things that are just pretty simple things, but I want to make sure they're on people's radars. Andy and I have been going back and forth on the Woodsbrook buyout project. We have continued to find out some new things that all of a sudden have been required that have made us do a little bit more work. Once we have that done, we find yet something else that has to require more work, but we've gone back and forth, and just about 2 hours ago they sent the latest, which if we're good with, we can sign the agreement and begin. So hopefully that will be kicking off nearly immediately. I'd love to get that started before next week comes. So that's really it in the Woodsbrook buyout project. It's still slowly progressing on, but I think we're hopefully at a spot where we can actually start moving. Highway garage grant, we'd originally hoped to have the bids this meeting, but after talking with Neil and talking with Rich DeGuida of MRB, they wanted another week because the contractors didn't feel they had enough time to put together their bids. And I sent an email out about this. So the update for the highway garage grant is that the bid opening is going to be this Monday here. And we had talked about the possibility of an August 21st special meeting to take that and accept whichever bid we choose to based on their recommendation. So are you guys still good with an August 21st meeting just for that? We may tag on some one or two other things that we'll be discussing in this meeting. But are you guys good for the August 21st? Brian, was
Yep.
that day
No,
works
I'm
for you?
down.
Okay.
I'll be a year older.
Yeah, all right. So we will award that bid on August 21st, assuming all goes well.
The motion,
What's that?
motion for the meeting.
We need a motion to set a special meeting for August 21st.
Motion.
Vanessa, thank you.
Second.
Second, Brian. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. If Bobby and Craig aren't here, we'll just egg their house. Okay. Probably shouldn't do that. The last thing I want to mention.
Not on the record.
What's
I'm
that?
writing it.
It's not like I'm recording or anything. Not recording a thing. Okay. The last thing is the Skio Solutions was that technical assessment needs assistant program that EPA does. They sent a draft report that they have been working on gathering information from people. We have sent comments back. They are going to present. I just got the official word about 4 or 5 hours ago that they will present at the September meeting. DEC is also continuing to work on getting the CAG off the ground, Community Action Group, as well as a website where we're going to have all this data housed that we have now and continually, so there's a sort of a one-stop shopping point. So I would expect those things also to be presented at the September meeting, but I want to get that out now. That Tanner report will be coming. Any questions on those guys? All right. People to be heard. We have a few folks here. Let me start with Kendall, since you're here.
Okay, I'm here at the meeting to present the village board with the petition that has been circulating for several months, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Many of you in the room have already signed it, and I'll just read what it states. It says, "We, the undersigned, believe that the Immaculate Conception Church is an important cultural and religious cornerstone of our entire community and are vehemently opposed to its partial or total demolition." And we have a few hundred signatures. This is a partial list because there are some other pages circulating. But I wanted to present this and ask if the board could perhaps vote on a resolution to support this endeavor.
Well, I know that all of us have different relationships and connections to this. I don't know if there's space to I don't know if anyone's interested in signing, but that would be all right. Andy, how would that work if we were to do resolution? Would that be something we'd have to work up?
Could we do it under cultural and historic significance for the village?
If the board is interested in moving forward on it, it is something that would probably be best served to be written.
Okay, ahead of time?
And identify things like that, bases to support the village's position,
Okay.
set forth in the resolution. So
Okay.
that is something, if the board does want to proceed, we could work on that and have that ready for your board's review on the 21st.
But just to maintain separation of church and state, we'd have to focus on cultural and historic aspects, correct?
You're certainly not going to, as a village board, just go to war with the Diocese of Albany.
Oh, come on, Andy.
I don't know about that.
Certainly wouldn't counsel the board to do that, but if there are issues concerning the
That would
Come on, you're no
My
fun.
first year.
cultural significance of the village,
Yeah.
Character of the village, those things are appropriate
Okay.
basis to do that.
Okay. And again, we all have different ties to the situation, so obviously all opinions are welcome, and there may be people who vehemently are for it or against it or vehemently have to abstain. That's totally fine and acceptable, and I want to make sure that's out there.
3 people that I've approached refused to sign it out of about 300.
Okay. Have I signed this yet?
Yes.
Okay, thought so. So we will possibly at the next. Is this a copy for us?
That's for you.
Okay.
And I also signed that already as well.
Yeah.
I did.
Although Kendall, when you said, "Here, sign this," I was like, "Well, what is it?" Just sign it. I'm like, no, Kendall, what is it?
Check.
How many signatures are on there? That copy has only around 220 or so. Something like that.
Okay.
But there are other pages still circulating.
Thank you
Okay.
for doing this.
I'm not Catholic.
But,
But
I know.
yeah.
I'm a member of the community.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's one of the like Kevin. You're also been working hard on trying to preserve what we have, and I also would thank you to you because it takes all of us to preserve what we have here.
Yeah. All right. So we will look into and possibly have on the agenda in a future meeting, either the special meeting or in September. But we'll do some discussing. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Is Greg Fox here? I think he'd reached out to me. Okay.
Did they do
Okay.
testing yet?
Yes, and he thought the meeting was next week, so nobody will be here, so probably gonna get it
Push
till
off?
September.
Okay, okay.
Any, just not to, do you have any feedback on
All I
testing?
know is they wanted to run wires on the ground up there and stuff, and I absolutely told them no, not with the water lines and everything up there.
How far underline, or how far underground are they trying to run wires?
He did not go into that, he told me he was gonna get Mr. Vincent to get a contact with me. I was not here when all this took place. So by September, we'll have all the preliminaries of what
Okay.
they wanna do to be done.
Well, we need to have very definitive, specific
Yeah, I
details
already
because
told
we
him
can't
no
mess
on,
with,
Barry Cable.
Yeah, that didn't come up before,
No.
so.
They did this time and they came to me and I absolutely told them no.
alright, we'll communicate with them, thank you,
Okay.
yep. I have a few requests from Hasty 3, I've been very tardy in getting these to you guys, I had some communications in May and July on a bunch of these, so I have a bunch of events that I'd like to approve. I'm gonna start with the easiest and work the way backwards. October 30th, Halloween parade at 6 p.m. They will need the park, they will not need a sound system. It is the 69th year of the Halloween parade, by the way, which is pretty cool. And they're looking for a police escort, Bob? During the parade?
We usually work with the fire department. The fire department usually goes in the front with the sound system, and then we just follow.
Okay,
It's not a problem.
so fire in front, party in the rear. Alright, so I guess I'm looking for a motion to accept, or to accept that.
Motion.
Events.
Second.
Ben, Brian, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, carries, good. Working backwards, October 27th will be the second annual Trunk and Treat. They will need the wood park and the sound system again. And I just said, I asked about details, Neil, and they're gonna basically set up the vehicles the same way they did this past year. Did that work? Were there any hitches with that? Okay. I know last year they asked for cones, but they haven't asked for that yet, so they may not need it now that they know what their plan is, but I remember how cool that event was and how cool the community thought it was.
Huge success.
It was a huge success. It was enormous. And they will need the sound system on that event. So, looking for a motion to accept, to approve that events.
Motion.
Vanessa?
Second.
Second, Ben. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Great. Now, on September 29th is the what's it called?
Hullabaloo.
Thank you. Event. There's a bunch of different parts to it. The one part that's going to be tricky is the walk run that they wanted to do, which involves the greenway. The issues that we're looking at, and I've reached out to a couple greenway folks to find out what their thoughts were of the color run aspect of it, where they throw the, what is it, powder?
It's a powder, but it also can get wet and, yeah.
Okay. And I've only spoken to a few people on the greenway about this portion, the color portion, but there was some concern voiced from the greenway folks who I spoke with. Again, it wasn't all of them. In terms of using that on the greenway. Was the greenway used for this event last year? Does anybody remember?
No, I think it was used on, they did it on Main Street last year.
Okay, okay.
Illumination.
The idea that Alish passed would be if we could use the greenway, it's easier for the police because they don't have to block off streets and such. And it's shaded, which helps for, you know, some of the cancer survivors or kids who are there, and it's a nice spot.
Which part of the greenway?
Well, that's the thing. They're looking to use the north end, and my concern about the north end is that there's a small portion that the village doesn't actually own of the greenway. You know whose properties those are. Yeah. So I'm a little worrisome of approving an event there. If the color stuff weren't on it, but I probably wouldn't have it as a concern, but I'd want to hear from the greenway on the color part of
One rain
it.
and that stuff's gone.
What's that?
One like rain and that
And
stuff
it's gone?
goes away.
It's a good, but it's also, I'm vocal of not being okay with that. It's a natural area, fluorescent colors, you know, if it doesn't rain, you're getting it on running shoes, if you take a bike there, it's not, if it's a run or walk on there, great, but it's really disturbing the environment.
How does it work? Do they like throw
You can
stuff
throw
out
it, you can
throughout
spray
the course?
it, you can like kind of put it out like a powder that's through an air. There's various ways to do it, but it
Okay.
gets all over the place. It gets on people. If they're wet or sweating, it does get all over the place. They're a lot of fun, but they're good in an open field, but not a nature area.
Okay. So my thought on this is to get the whole Greenways response on it, or possibly work with Ailish and you, Bob, and find what would an alternate route be. I don't know if there's a way to do the color part before you get onto the Greenway, but
But that's still beyond them
still
too,
be on the Greenway,
yeah.
just not as much.
We and Apollo, we were scheduling a meeting, and there was an email for the next meeting, so we have a date for that.
Mhm. So I'm fine with the event, and I just want to talk with Ailish further about and talk with the Greenway committee. General thoughts?
I gotta go.
Sorry, I'm trying. You were next.
Go ahead.
Okay. So can I table this event for now, and we'll hit it at the next meeting in 2 weeks?
Well, why don't we okay it for Main Street then instead, because I think they wanna start advertising.
Okay.
Is it something that you can talk with whoever you need to talk about? Brian, will there be a meeting before the special meeting?
No, I think it looks
I
like
can
it's
handle it
gonna
over email.
Well, I was just gonna
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
if there was,
be, it could be the last week, but we could do an email to the group as well. But
I mean, if
it looks
that's
like it's
something that
gonna
we can
be-
put on the agenda for the 21st, that
Yeah.
would probably
Why
be a good
don't
idea.
Why don't we okay it for Main Street, and if she wants us to see if we can follow up on the Greenway, and we can get it to them by the 21st meeting, and if that would be enough time for her to advertise. I don't know what her advertising schedule is.
They always like to do things in advance, but I think they already started promoting at one point, I think they pulled it back.
Okay. All right. I say let's okay it for Main Street. Bob, is that all right?
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Just need a week's
And then
notice.
if they want to do Greenway, we'll talk to them. She did say, and I had a couple emails back. She said she really doesn't care particularly where the race is, but that was the thought. So let's okay it for Main Street for now, so that she has it. And if they want to follow up and try to change it, we have 2 weeks to do that.
What time in the morning is this?
Oh, you're gonna ask me that, aren't you?
Okay, we got plenty of time.
I have that in another email, so let me bring that up.
That's right, we can get back.
All right. That's the one time I don't have here because of all the other times. So looking for a motion to approve the morning walk run.
Motion?
Ben,
Second.
Brian, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, carries. The next part of the day is the block party and basket bingo. They would like to block off Upper Elm Street between Main and Church from the hours of noon to 6. This is part block party, part basket bingo inside the Armory. Any thoughts, any concerns?
What's the date?
Great with it. Same date. These are all September 29th. We're
Okay.
now.
Is that parking lot across from them town, or is that still village?
County.
That's county? Or do they, okay, I mean, I'm fine with the street, but do they also need to get county approval to use the parking lot for, if they're planning to use that too? Just to make sure they get that approved if they need that.
I'll mention it.
Okay.
I'll mention it. I don't know if they use that or not.
I think everybody uses it for the Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
the
I don't mean
Armory, the church.
parking, I meant.
No, he means taking it up
Oh.
for space
Yeah,
for
like
an
as,
event,
if
but
they use the street and that, just they have more space to make sure that
Yeah.
they know that's not village.
if their space extends into the
Yeah,
parking lot,
yeah,
they have to.
just
If
so
they're
they're
parking,
covered.
it doesn't matter. Okay, looking for a motion then to approve this.
Motion?
Ben, second. Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. The last bit is that also that night, the luminary parade and lantern launch. This is a problem because they want to use the wood park from 6 to 10, which is fine. Don't need the sound system. They do want to do the parade, and they want a police escort for that parade. Parade kicks off, lines up at 7, and kicks off at 7:30. The one problem is they want to do the lantern launch, and New York State Code, which I sent an email with Andy, says, and I think Mark, you saw that too. Basically, it treats it as an open fire or something?
Treats it as an open fire which needs to be continuously
Monitored, right, and since it's
because
floating
these
away in the
launch,
air.
The state takes a position that they violate the state fire code.
So we as a village can't approve the lantern launch portion.
Every wedding.
I love New
these
York
days
State.
has
I,
I do too.
Now, after
Okay,
living in a
listen.
state that does wildfires,
right,
Uh-huh.
a private operation, that's okay.
But
they
you're
take
asking
risk.
the board
As
to
a
approve
village,
an event that,
Exactly.
Yeah.
that
So
includes it, so you can't.
if they do it in front of the Armory, they can do that.
Well, they're still breaking the law.
They can't launch it. If they launch it and it floats away.
What?
I mean, if they do it, they do it, but
Flaming balls of
Yeah.
fire.
we,
Forgive this later.
That's right.
Yeah.
I will say the first year I watched it, it was nighttime and I was like, what is that in the sky? And I like followed it for 5 minutes before I figured out what it was. I'm such an idiot. Good thing that's on the record too.
But you're our idiot.
If they're
There
over
we
a
go.
lake or the ocean, they're not as scary.
So my thought is to approve it without the lantern launch, and it is what it is.
And what happens is what happens.
Yeah. So looking for that motion.
Motion.
Second.
Ben and Brian. Any further discussion? Thank you, New York State, for all your regulations.
Well, you know, if they start doing those lantern launches, we're gonna bring the fire department down with their values gone.
You know, they would love that. They would absolutely love that. They'd sign up for that.
You should go back to the state with that.
I actually
What if we have
know-
the fire department shoot it
I
down
actually don't see
after a
the
few
state's
minutes?
purpose in that if they are a flaming ball of fire that can land on a structure.
Yeah.
You know, one downdraft or wrong wind.
I know
or-
a couple
True, and
firemen
that's
love
what
it.
happens when it gets just
Yeah.
a touch breezy, they
Yep.
get out of control and.
Then we won't have to worry about the church.
All right, we have the motion already set. All in favor?
Well, no, it's the tallest structure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, carries. That is the full list of everything from Ailish regarding us. Okay, I want to skip ahead to the water report because it ties into what Jim needs to do and Jim needs to go.
Yeah, 'cause he wants to
What's
do it.
that? And I will come back to people to be heard after that. Thank you. Thank you. So if you guys don't mind, please hop to the end of the water, end of the report packet to go over the water report. Brian?
Jim, they've, and the whole village crew and the water department, they've had an incredibly busy month.
Holy cow, you're not kidding.
The biggest, I think, thing dominating their time has been the Rensselaer Street pump station. Josh Neal Highway, yep. But
Yep.
as a whole, everybody, yeah, this has been, and just a quick, for people to know, the system up there is above the Rensselaer tank is pressurized by air. The compressor went, you buy another,
And the pump went,
yeah, the pump and then a valve. You lost a valve after that.
Yeah, it's something that's been going on since I've been here way back in 2002. It's something that I've been asking over the years to be changed out. We haven't gotten there. As you know, in a few minutes you will hear that we finally get Snow Street done,
That's this grant packet
alright?
that we'll talk about in a minute.
Ben can vouch for this, Ben's been around me for a long enough time that we've tried to change this pump station.
I will vouch
This
for
is
that.
something that, as a board, and I'm asking that we look to do something to get this changed out. Here we are, we're gonna help Snow Street out, who now will get attached to this pump station, who's been asking for more water and pressure. Not so much more water, but more pressure in their houses. Now, if this pump station goes down after they get more pressure, it's not a good scenario.
Right. And just so that anyone on the board's not been up there, and public too, I'd call it, it'd be somewhere MacGyver would be proud of, and that's not a good thing. The way you guys have, I mean, it's
Functional.
I mean, the way you've been able to keep patching and putting together systems that are ancient is impressive, but also to note the public safety concern that, you know, that's a fragile system up there. People without water, if there's a fire emergency,
And if
none of
there's a
those
fire up
hydrants can be
there,
used.
They're gonna be
above
hauling water
there.
all the way down the hills. There is
Yeah.
no fire protection up there whatsoever.
And if, yeah, and it's, plus people, how long were they out? Twice they were without water. I mean, there was,
In 4
you guys,
days.
2 nights overnight there trying to get
How
it
many
back
nights
up.
now were they?
It came back in the morning and then went
And they
again.
left again, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a serious problem. It's costing
Yeah.
us a lot of man time hours and manpower hours. It's a public safety issue. I don't, you know, I know with the Snow Street project, but basically just to back with speaking to these guys, it's something that's a little more urgent than it has been in the past that we really need to come up with a solution for.
So, to transition to the grant, which comes in later in the meeting, but I figure if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to talk about it now.
Was there anything Neil, or not Neil, Jim still needed so we can go, cause he has to get down?
No, you all set with.
I'm gonna
this?
summarize
You can
everything
take
we
care of
talked
the
about.
rest?
Yep.
Sorry,
Thanks,
man.
guys. I
Yep.
gotta go to-
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. The grant, we received, the village received, I think it was right before I took office, actually. and it came from Senator Marchione's office, and it was a SAM grant. No, it was a DASNY grant. Maybe it was both. No, it's the same grant from DASNY. That's it. Well, it originally started at $350,000. Once the engineering costs are taken out of that, it's down to $317,000. We received our bids, and as this document shows you, the lowest bid came in from CFI Contracting. They had the lowest base bid on bullet 2 of $284,500, plus their bid of $16,750 for the conditional bid items. And those are conditional because we may need them, we may not need them. It depends what we get in the ground, right, Dave? And on top of that, we had also put on as an add-on replacing the pump station, which came in. I think their lowest bid was $97,500, which is the third bid there, or the third bullet there. So going back, we started with $350,000 for the grant. We took out $33,000 for the engineering and design work and bid work, and that brought it down to $317,000. We take out the base bid, that leaves us at $33,500. We take out the conditional bid. When we consider all that spent, that leaves us with about $17,000. What that means is we're still short for getting a pump station replacement up there, which is what Jim was saying we really, really need. So Jim's thoughts, and Brian and David back me up on this because I think this is right, is to move forward with this, get this done, see how much the project costs at the end, see what we have left, and start now looking to see if we can find a way to get that pump station either this year or we save some money from this fiscal year and budget some money for next fiscal year, so that we can do that as soon as we possibly can money-wise. Does that sound about right?
It sounds about right, but just to also add, so the board is aware as well, it's a very fragile situation up there. It doesn't take much for that to fall apart, and just, I didn't even realize how many homes are served by that pump station. It's, you're looking at Parsons.
70 or 90?
It's about, I think around 70, 90 customers. It's household, it's up Parsons, you got Carr Street, it goes out to Fairbank Road, Oak Street, Rensselaer Street, I'm missing Congress Street, I believe, as well. And then down at Wilder is not, you guys were fine. And there's a few side streets off of there as well that have 2 or 3 homes on them that were impacted as well. Again.
Is Easy Street and them on?
No, they're okay. But in the sense that I listened to some messages at the water plant from residents up there.
Mm-hmm.
Most were understanding, and they've been more patient than I would expect them to be, especially after dealing with this for many years. There were a few that were clearly impatient, and I understand that as well. I'd be pretty mad if I thought I'd have water to take a shower the night before in the morning, go to work, yeah.
Yep.
And I also would like to just throw out there as well, I feel like for those customers that were affected, we should offer some sort of credit on their bill for not having any water service. Not that I wanna give away money, but I also feel like we haven't done a lot we haven't had the ability to do a lot to fix this, and it's a gesture I think we should make for folks
let me look
up
into
there.
that and look to that as a future agenda item.
Yeah, just to put out, I don't know if the board even thinks it's a good idea or not. If not, we don't.
We can certainly look into it. Both if the board wants to pursue it and how it would work.
But yeah, Kevin, sorry.
I was just, there's residents on Ball Street and I think on some on Easy Street that complain about low water pressure. Will any of this help that part of the system?
The Snow Street part will, with the pumping, it won't.
It's not until the pump station
Right.
would get added, right? To things will really be
The only
better up
thing
there.
that's gonna be upgraded as far as residential is Snow Street. The people on Ball Street Extension, Easy Street, they're gonna have the same pressure.
But
Until we get the new pump station.
No.
Even after you get the new pump station.
Even after, okay.
But also to note, if we don't do the pump station, we do the Snow Street project, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, that project is bringing the line up to Oak Street and back down to get the gravity, to get the run for Snow Street, correct, to build the pressure? If we're not able to pump it up there and that pump goes down, now Snow Street's out too, correct, if we don't replace the pump?
There's,
right?
There's
Yeah, it's a closed system.
You don't have to pump it all the way to Oak Street. There's cross pieces that cut through lawns.
Okay.
From probably 100 feet up from the pump station, there's a line that goes to Parsons, there's a line that goes to Congress. And that's gonna be kind of the loop back down,
Okay.
so.
But if we,
But
But
you
if
definitely do
there's-
need to upgrade the pump station, but, you know,
but if we don't upgrade it, then Snow Street is none, is what I'm kinda getting at, right? I'm correct there, that if we do the work on Snow Street, we don't do the pump station, then we have even more customers that are potentially without water?
If,
It's
if,
not
if
able
the
to
same
pump.
station
there's gonna
fails.
be another 13 services, 14 services
Okay.
that will be affected.
Neil, you've had to deal with this problem longer than any of us here in this room. Do you have anything else you wanna add to it?
You're getting ahead of money.
Alright, start a bottle drive.
We don't have it,
Yeah.
that's how I can tell.
Alright,
You know.
so, we have a motion, we don't have a motion yet, but we're later going to, look to, approve the bid. At this point, we're only looking to approve the base bid and the additional, the conditional bid items, not the add-on, because we don't have the money for that yet.
Dave, have you worked with this company, CFI, before?
I have not, but I've talked to people who have, and they're very reputable from what little I've heard.
Also, CFI was the winning bid in the sewer project before we backed out in the sewer project. Just as a fun fact. So I'm actually kinda glad they came in low.
Also, we have to accept the water report.
Yes, I know that. So do you guys want to, do this now, approve the bid now, or wait until later in the meeting? Does it matter to you guys? Okay, let's approve the water report first, so looking for a motion to approve the water report.
Motion.
Second.
Brian, Ben, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, and with your permission, I wanna move to the agenda item on page, it's at the very bottom of page 1, that's funny. The first one under grant and project bids, the Snow Street grant. Do we just need a motion to approve the
Award the
bid?
contract.
To award the contract, so I'm looking for a motion to award the contract to, per MRB's recommendation, CFI Contracting, for $284,500 for the low base bid, and $16,750 for the conditional bid, and not at this time approving the add-on.
Motion.
Alright, got all those numbers? Alright, Ben was the motion, Vanessa was the second, any additional discussion? All in favor? Do we need a roll call vote for this, or are we?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, carries, awarded, great, thank you. Before we go back to the reports, we're bouncing around again, we got through the people to be heard except for anyone else who wanted to be heard, so would anyone like to speak in regards to anything? 1, 2, alright, since there's 2, I'll do a set a 4-minute limit, just as a reminder to state your name and address, and, just a reminder to record all meetings and we'll post them online as we go. Would you like to start?
Yeah, Scott Harrison, we own property, my wife owns property at Railroad Avenue, down from your, I understand there's gonna be a dog park put in there,
Mm-hmm.
okay. What's the liability insurance on that one, for me?
What property
Per
is
year?
here?
Pardon?
Which
Gail
property?
McGuire's house.
Oh, Gales.
I don't know if we've gotten that far
Yeah,
into
we
the
are.
project. We started by just getting the area clear because we were already doing clearing work there to
So,
begin
but it's
with.
approved without knowing what
It's
insurance
not,
is
it's
gonna
not
be.
officially approved. It's something that's in the works, but we are
It's gonna
still
raise the
working.
insurance on the houses there.
What's that?
It's gonna raise the insurance on the houses.
We can look into that. We haven't looked into that aspect of it.
Well,
Usually,
I just wanna know if you guys will pick up the overruns on that.
My insurance didn't have an issue with it.
Well, it's not gonna be in your backyard, it's gonna be in our backyard.
No, it'll be in mine. Closer to my property than yours.
Really?
So you talked to your insurance folks and they have said,
Yeah, well, because they don't know the types of dogs and if you do your research and other things, and also is it within 100 yards of the ballpark,
within 100 yards of the ballpark.
the athletic fields?
it'd be farther than 100 yards, wouldn't it, down there?
It's gonna be,
It'll be close, but it'll be more than 100.
Because there is a law in the books that it can't be. New York
Can I
state law.
hear why you're opposed to the dog park?
Well, it would have been nice if it had been put up to a vote for the public.
It was just it's literally just kind of like a project that I'm working on that hasn't even been, set at a board meeting officially.
Correct.
Nothing, it's just me doing my active part, being on the Hoosick Falls Village Board to make the community better. So I had an idea and I was rolling with it, and I think the village, like, has just taken it, and rumors spread about, we don't have any set plans for the dog park. We have an idea that we're trying to accomplish.
So it's not cut in stone.
No, and it's still a ways away, and any planning type events, I mean, it would have to go through, would it have to go through zoning or planning?
Well, a village project technically does not need to go through planning and zoning review, but you're gonna wanna make sure that it has, proper design.
Yep.
It need to be approved by the board.
Yep.
We will take a look at potential adverse impacts, that's something that the board will look at. Insurance, yes, is an appropriate issue, you have that reviewed by the village's carrier.
Do you need to have a public meeting on that?
Subject to check, Ben, I don't think so. This is something that the board can undertake.
Well, I think
the village
I think there'd still be value in having it.
Oh.
Regardless of the
Oh,
need, and I
sure.
think
Yeah,
that,
Yeah,
I
you
just
know,
wanna
there are a
know
lot
if
of
you do
people
that at your
who
discretion.
locally have been kind of frustrated at the idea, but
Well,
there's,
it's not frustrating, it's just that, if we were to sell this property, the value's gonna go down on it, just like everything else at Hoosick Falls has gone down because of water issues.
Unless the people had dogs.
Pardon?
Unless the people had dogs and they wanted to use the dog park.
And then they'd be really excited they were so close.
About what?
The dog park.
Why don't you just walk their dogs here? I mean, like,
Dogs wanna
you're
get
used
off
to,
the
you
leash
did
and
for the past
run.
50 years.
People don't have a backyard, not everybody
Well,
has
tell
a
them
yard.
that maybe they shouldn't get a dog then.
Or elderly people who may have a pet that they like it to get. I guess I don't understand why, I've heard a lot of assumptions on what this is going to be and that people have run wild with, and I
Well,
and I
I'm
just,
running wild with, I'm just asking a question, I'm not getting any answers.
to point out,
I mean, you have a board meeting, you're supposed to get answers, and nobody can give me an answer on this insurance thing, or if it's gonna happen, what's gonna happen.
well, the answers
Yeah,
that
just
we've
jump the gun.
given thus far are, this is a project we're working on.
Uh,
We have not gotten to the design phase, we've not presented anything in a public board meeting yet. It's something we're working on. Hearing concerns from you and a couple others in previous meetings is putting things on our radar, which is good, that's what we need to
I'm not against pets or
hear.
anything like that, don't get me wrong. I
And
understand that, and funding for this is coming from a grant, is that what you're gonna do?
We're trying to actually just all work together through donations for the fencing in the community. A lot of the community wants it there and is willing to use their own manpower and resources to get it done.
so
And
with
they're
this,
gonna be certain hours, I mean, have you gotten that far?
I think
It
that
would be like
that's
a lot
logical.
of normal dog park
I
regulations,
know
we would
nothing
wanna
about
follow
dog parks
where,
at all.
we would look at
That's all right, that's
cities
all right.
where it's been successful and try to, I feel like, mimic what they do, where we see success.
So I know Vanessa has looked into this a ton, and she's been to a lot of dog parks, and she's talked to people who run them and knows what things work and don't work, what problems they've had,
Well,
and
what
so on
time
and
do
so
they
forth.
generally close? So you have Vanessa?
Yes,
Okay.
just
I mean,
like a normal recreational sunset. You're not
Sunset?
gonna want people there after dark.
Nobody after dark.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be
Like a
somebody,
normal-
it's gonna be patrolled and taken care of?
Yeah, just like the Greenway is.
Yeah.
If there's problems in the Greenway, the police go there too.
It's another community spot, that's what
Yep.
we're trying to make.
And we understand fully it's not for everybody, because some people really love it, some people don't, but we also understand that you guys
Well,
who are
because it's
nearby.
adjoining the property is what I'm
Mhm.
concerned, to kind of,
Mhm.
all of a sudden where somebody's working down there and we knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
So can I
Nobody
give you
said
just
anything,
a,
goes to the property
can I
owners
just
and
give you
says,
somebody
"This is
who's
what's gonna happen."
a property owner along there, just some perspective too, that it would be fenced appropriately. Dog parks aren't like a kennel where there's
No, I'm sure,
nonstop.
it's just that
There-
we felt we were left out of this and all of a sudden there's being work done there and when you ask and you say there's a dog park going in, is what we were told.
That's not why that's not, the tree clearing had started before the dog park thing, that's because of the new highway garage, not,
The highway garage and some
not even
extra
the dog park.
drainage work
Who's like,
nearby there.
who's doing this?
So
Another neighbor
No,
in the
but-
street. But just, there were some assumptions I heard from another neighbor that were wild and just completely without, they were just, I don't know where they came to land, but the fact is if it ends up there too, it's not, at the end of the day, we live by a railroad, I mean, you're selling the house. That's a bigger, I think, challenge to selling than a dog park, and I would feel like that'd be actually nice that there's something municipal back there that would help with the sale. And also that house, I believe, is not on the sewage line, there's a septic tank there. So that's another, and I understand there's challenges to selling it, but I don't think a future dog park would be something people would say, oh, no to.
Something we're
Trees go
also,
by 3 times a day.
Actually,
The
they
dogs
go-
are gonna be there
They
12
go
hours
through
a day.
12 times a day, mostly overnight.
Yeah.
12
So,
Same thing,
yeah.
I pointed this out before too, though, when dogs go to dog parks, they're playing and running and
No,
exerting
that's
energy,
fine.
they don't just
feel we
bark.
felt left out of,
you want information, I get it.
consulted anybody about it.
Well, keep coming
Yeah.
to meetings with questions.
All right.
Definitely appreciate
No,
that.
fine, okay.
Alright, thank you, and you wanna say something?
Yes, Harold Stevens, Wilder Avenue. Just happened to want to make a comment. I've been out on the Greenway a couple of times walking recently, and met up with Jerry McAuliffe and his people out there, and they're doing a great job. They've done a fantastic job cleaning up the area down across from Cinco Bain.
Yep.
I just hope it stays that way.
And that actually was the company reached out to us, and Brian went down and
Yeah.
talked through with the company and with Jerry about where exactly things would change for what they needed to do there.
That feedback's good too. Just so people know, the landing, Skrupski's Skrupski Landing, it looks great. That was as part of the remediation investigation, actually, they had to clear to do some scanning of the ground there.
I just hope that it stays cleared like that.
Yeah, Neil loves that idea, right? Somewhere else to mow? Actually, Jerry said he could, but Jerry did say he could bring.
Sentencing people
Yes.
could be in there cleaning it up.
Jerry did
Yep.
mention that, and I'm glad to hear someone else, that other people are enjoying that. You can see the river, it looks great.
Alright.
So, on the north end
Thank you.
And they're
also
doing good.
needs some work
Great.
too.
Okay.
The north end had a lot of storm damage, which we're gonna bring up the next Greenway meeting.
Alright. Alright,
Neil,
thank you.
just with that, of the washout on the north end of the Greenway, is there a problem with the drainage coming off from High Street that caused that washout?
There's actually a few, Kevin, too, further up.
Shoot down through there.
Yeah, right where it comes off from Lower High Street, where the culvert comes out into the river, it looks like the water came over the Greenway and down right up into the culvert again.
Yeah, I don't think DOT's fixed their issue on top of the hill yet. The road hasn't started settling, but that's where all the water's coming from, is their last patch job.
Yeah, we had there's multiples all the way on the north end that, we gotta look at what grant money we still have for the Greenway to try to.
I don't walk that end as much, I don't know what. Alright,
Yeah, so there's I don't know if we have any gravel to put down on it, but that's gonna be the next Greenway meeting to figure out.
That's what a fresh slate.
Yeah.
Stone dust.
Yeah, it's,
alright. Marion,
My zombie house lawn is looking really bad again.
what's the address?
65 Wilder.
It should've just been mowed.
It
It
hasn't
hasn't
been
been.
mowed in over a month.
On it, thank you. Alright, we need to approve the minutes from the June meeting and the special meeting in June 25th. Do we have minutes handy? I've already been through them, so I know they're good. Do we have any minutes here?
They should have gotten
Do you guys got any minutes?
I haven't had time to review them.
email.
No,
Here's the June 12th one,
did we?
You get the email?
I don't think I did. So I missed it.
June 12th and June 25th.
You did get the email, Ben?
I may have, but I didn't see it until,
I don't recall.
Put it off until the other meeting.
I'm gonna just abstain from approving because I haven't looked over them, so.
I've been through both of them. Yeah, did
I
that
got
get
a motion,
right?
we approve the minutes.
June 12th or June 25th? Can we do both at the same time?
Both.
Do separately.
Separately. Which meeting, Kevin? June
26th,
25th.
25th.
Alright, special meeting, June 25th meeting, motion to approve from Kevin. Need a second?
second,
Ben? Alright, all in favor?
aye.
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 I didn't read them either.
No,
I don't feel
yeah,
like
I'm
I saw that
abstaining.
email.
That means we don't have quorum for this.
Correct.
Alright, so we will postpone it for next meeting. We'll table those. I need a motion to table that for next meeting.
Motion,
Thank you, Ben.
Mhm.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Vanessa. All in favor to table?
aye.
Opposed? Tabled. Alright, so we'll have copious amounts of minutes for next time.
Sorry, Ian.
Alright, back to the reports. We let's go to the treasure reports.
We are barely into the first month of the new fiscal year. We still have not figured out how the recouping of the financial statements from, status from last year's flooding, as of yet. To the department heads, please be consistent with budgeted figures, and if you need more information than what's in your budget, get a hold of Denise before any large purchases you are unsure about.
Bunch of things listed that Denise has been working on. I went over them all with her today. It's extensive. What she's been doing is extensive.
Page and a half.
We talked in particular about the first two things with Daphne. Grants. She fills out a drawdown, sends it to them. Then she does the second and third and fourth. They just got the funds for the first and they're waiting for the funds on the second. That's sort of the timeline between when we spend something when we get the money back. And it takes a while. Any questions? All in favor, motion to approve the treasury report?
Motion.
Brian? Second, was that Kevin?
Yep.
Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Police report.
The police report for July 2018, total calls for July were 153.
Whew.
Past month in June there were 115, so there's definitely an increase there. Excuse me, total arrests for July was 24, last month it was 23. So we continue to see an increase in both service calls and arrests. The increase we've noticed was in mental health calls, EMS, domestics, check the welfare. They all seem to be contributing factors to the call increase. The increase in arrests has come from a step up on traffic enforcement, as well as we've been working closely with the village court on warrant arrests, so individuals who have been either sentenced through some fine, et cetera, within the court that don't show up in court, warrants are brought out for federal arrest. So we've stepped them up on tracking these individuals down and bringing them back in, so that's going to continue. The other thing is on the sex offenses. These are individuals that either are moving in or moving around the village. We've assigned officers just to be monitoring that situation as well. So with that monitoring becomes an increase of call volumes, and we monitor them to make sure, number one, they're abiding by the rules that have been established by the courts. Also, any activity that's coming in and out of the house. So, other than that, just real quick, I know it's been an issue to some extent about the church. Father's Tom's bike was stolen, and we recovered the bike. An arrest was made. It is on Facebook, and unfortunately, there's a young man that's being kind of singled out as being the one who was taking it. That is not the individual, and without getting into names and stuff, we're going to try to make some clarification on Facebook that individual is not the one.
Comes back to that issue, Facebook again, police, and I was just reading who was it who sent me the Times Union article about a police,
We talked about that last month.
No, there was one recently, there was a government employee who has his own Facebook page in Albany County, and it's in the Times Union like a week ago or so, that came under fire for taking comments off of the page.
Well, by law, obviously, you gotta leave open all comments still.
Yeah.
We're looking at that on a certain way where we monitor it. A couple months it did get out of control over an individual that we eventually were able to arrest. And, we got him over in Vermont.
Yeah.
So, and we are monitoring the situation. I find, to some extent, it's very, very useful to our department. When we put these warrants on, the individuals have come back to us and said, oh, I forgot all about it. You know, so it's, and it's also a way of communicating back and forth to the community.
Alright.
So we'll monitor this.
It's the comments, not the.
It's the common spot.
It's the common spot
Yep.
that I think we should be able to, we try to monitor it as soon as it goes out. We've got 3 of us that are monitoring it, and all 3 of us can access it and remove comments as we feel whether they're appropriate or not.
Yeah.
We're having an issue with phone scams again. We're working on it. A case that just happened where, they're not just using phones, they're using emails. So people have to be very, very careful about their emails on on what they're opening and what they're sending.
Verify, always
Very,
verify.
We've got an individual that's out a substantial amount of money because they followed an email that turned out to be not correct. No government agency is going to notify you by email requesting payment. So
Or payment changes.
or payment changes. So please, if you get any of those, just ignore them. Just ignore it and contact the police on it, and we'll look into it for you. And I just wanna point out, Kevin has said that we've got the band in there on Saturday nights, on different occasions. The most recent one, I think it was over 200 people.
No, I think there was close to 500-600 people there,
At what?
the last concert.
I just gotta say, it's been run fantastically. We have had no problems whatsoever.
Great.
And I know there was concern because of the alcohol, but it's not. The Sandbar and Kevin's people, have got everything under control, and
Great.
it's been working very, very well.
Actually, I've heard feedback from people that I would never expect to go to events in the park, and Kevin, I mean, I don't know, I think we got a full-time, events planner, coordinator, role in your future, but the compliments on it, and that it was so, it was under control, but also fun, and there was no, just so many good compliments, so thank you.
Well, a lot of the attendees came from all over the country to see this band because you grew up here, so it was like
That's
old
cool.
home day.
That's cool. How many of these concerts do we have this summer?
One more left, August 18th.
And how many do we have so far? One or two?
This will be the third and last one.
The third one.
Yeah.
And of course, we're off the block. No, they don't have a concert. They don't have any. Well, they
No,
don't.
it's a band.
Community band.
Band.
Okay.
They don't have a concert?
I mean, the best part was
I mean, they don't have like a live,
there was no
non-instrumental band.
there was no taxpayer money involved. It was all paid for by our sponsors, which I'd like to thank to all of them to make it possible.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Great.
There's a
Any?
minimum cost on our budget, on the police budget. So that counts now.
And there was 3 officers on, I think both of them, or all 3 of them at one point were in the park, so they're keeping an eye on things.
Great.
Having a presence, so people think twice about acting out.
Yep. That's great. Anything else, Bob?
Nope, we're all set.
Bob,
Yes.
calls outside the village, I see it's 9, is that, what's an average month? Is it about
It's
that?
averaging between 5 and 9 calls.
Okay,
Okay, these are,
I don't pay attention to it as much as I should, I'm just curious.
we've been reporting them because of,
Right.
there was a notice increase in it. And, I just want the village to understand, we take reports on each one, and it's put on file.
Yeah.
So, and we
Yep.
get a separate file for those.
Yep.
So anytime anyone wishes to look at them.
Okay. Thanks,
Talk to
Bob.
them later.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, motion to approve the police report.
Motion?
Second.
Ben, second Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Did it carry by more than one vote? 'Cause all I heard was one.
Oh, sorry.
Anybody else here?
Aye.
All right, great, thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, we're down a few, so we need 4. All right, code enforcement report.
In addition to what you have on your report, one thing I failed to put in there was, need of some direction for 51 Hoosick Street. It's a property that's, I red tagged, probably 6 weeks ago now, at least. It's, disgusting, to say the least. I have talked to the county about it, they can't declare a health issue, because, unless I start seeing rats or something like that. The issue is, I do have an estimate for $6,000 to come in and clean it up. So, the inside of the house needs to be cleaned, it's not getting any better. It's, my understanding is the owner had a stroke and will not be returning to the house. The people who are living there, the house got trashed. They're no longer living there, the house is vacant, but there was, a lot of, feces, cats, dogs, just filth, disgust. It's a white suit type of house, where you're gonna have to go in with the suits on, clean it up. And it's just sitting there continuing to
Get worse.
percolate.
Now, this house is up for auction next week, correct?
No, it is not.
It's not?
It's not even on the radar yet.
Because they haven't gotten to the point where it's been foreclosed on, probably.
Correct, a lis pendens has been filed for foreclosure, but foreclosure is different than the foreclosure sale.
Or
would be
tax
different.
sale, I meant.
Tax sale is not even close to that.
Oh, that's
Probably will go
53.
Foreclosure, but, I mean, I try to get the bank to do something, they don't own it, they won't touch it. So.
Andy, what are our options?
Actually, the foreclosure's been commenced.
Yes, lis pendens was filed.
Even though the bank doesn't own it, the current state law does require the lender, once foreclosure proceedings have started, to maintain the property. We'll have to look at whether that extends to the interior. I would think it does. Certainly it does extend to the exterior. This had been an issue for years. We heard in the back zombie property that this is kind of part and parcel of that, where banks would foreclose and then do nothing. The house was vacant and the weeds would grow up and the house would fall into disrepair. State law does require lenders to maintain properties in some circumstances if the house is vacant, even if it's pre-foreclosure. But if this is in foreclosure, we'll take a look at that, Mark. I think we can look to the bank. They really do need to hire a property maintenance person, and we'll see if that extends to the interior.
See, my understanding is the lis pendens is a notice of a pending action.
That's correct.
So they haven't actually gone through the foreclosure yet.
No, once it's commenced, then those obligations kick in.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
all right.
Foreclosures take a few years, so as soon as they do commence, there are property maintenance responsibilities for the lender.
All right.
And before you move away from and you brought up the auction that's coming up, just a quick, Andy had reached out to you about zoning. The village had been zoned single family with these non-conforming properties, and my question was, when can that grandfathering be changed? If we have several of these homes that are up for auction, which were originally built as single family, they've been vacant for at least a year. Is there some action we can take prior to that auction to revoke any of those from being multifamily going forward?
Well, with non-conforming uses, there's nothing that's been issued. It's just that was the use. In order to get non-conforming use status, you have to have a property legally in use prior to the adoption or amendment of your zoning code. And if you have it in that use, then you are allowed to continue. There's no permit issue, there's no authorization, you just continue the use. If the use is discontinued for a period of a year or more, you lose the non-conforming use status. The only way to address that is to have the village, if someone is using it in a manner inconsistent with your zoning, to issue a notice of violation saying you're in violation of the zoning code.
So any of these properties that are auctioned, that are non-conforming, that have been not used as multifamily for a year or more, when they're auctioned, Mark can issue a violation, correct?
Again, the village has the burden there. We'd have to make sure that we have the appropriate proof that it's been vacant, that it hasn't been used, it hasn't been offered for rental. We can get into some issues about, do you actually need to have a tenant, or are you offering it for lease, are you actively marketing it? So we should look at those property by property.
We have to look at that, because you have property classifications. Some of the ones that are on are classified as two families.
But
That
there's,
is the property classification.
right,
So,
so there could be but I just think because the auction's coming up, and before we get more slumlords or people that go in and strip these, or all the problems we have, that we take some action if we can on as many of these properties as possible, so that when people buy them at auction, if we can say, sorry, single family, you have to roll with that, if it's been empty, because we can get that data from the county, I assume. So we'd have that evidence. I just think it's something we need to take some action, and probably make your life a lot easier too, that.
well, the property classification thing is something I think you have to.
Yeah, we'll take a look at too, and there's a ripple effect, I understand, that could affect assessment.
I mean, just for instance, the property on Church Street that's up for auction has been empty for
That's
year and
paid.
a half, maybe more.
It's paid.
Nearly 2
Actually,
years.
when the flooding happened,
Three,
I
wow.
think.
They washed out the basement, right?
Washed out the basement of that.
Well, it caused some damage to the base. I haven't
Which
actually
house
had a
is
chance to get in there to see how much damage it's caused.
It's-
They do cause some.
Two or three from Cary Ave. There's the one on the corner that's again repeatedly gone up for auction that would,
Yep.
yeah, and then there's the one in between that's okay, and then the one Kevin's referring to. But again, that was a two-family,
That is classified as a two-family.
right, but is that something we can then, because of our zoning change and non-conforming, if we can look into not allowing that to be so?
Yeah, but when you have the zoning change, that doesn't necessarily make that, it was classified as a two-family. How does it make it non-conforming?
I think it's on the map as a non-conforming, but we can look into
It's
those,
in a-
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't, if it's classified as a two-family, to me, that's what it is.
Well, it's classified for assessment purposes? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Right, all the
Yeah.
properties have a classification.
But it was originally built as a single family, so that's
I
why I'm
understand
asking
that.
the,
You're right. And
yeah.
different rules for,
Yep.
tax classification as opposed to zoning compliance.
And the other one,
Okay.
the other one that you mentioned on the corner of Cary and Church is a whole nother issue. We have people that are buying these properties at the auctions, sight unseen.
Yep.
And then realizing how much work they have to do on them and walking away from them again, so then that starts the whole cycle over again.
Mm-hmm.
So there is, I put a note in here, that would be classified maybe as an abandoned property. I've asked Marie to come back when she's here to help part-time, to focus in on zombie properties, abandoned properties, and foreclosures.
Great.
To try and see what we can do. I talked to, Bill Film the other day about the abandoned properties, because my understanding is there's an avenue, if I declare a property abandoned in the village, to speed up the process whereby they don't have to wait maybe the 3 or 4 years to go to tax auction, but they can speed that process up if we know it's an
That would be
abandoned
great.
property. So he wasn't really familiar with it. It was something I read somewhere along the line, but it's something we'll talk about more
That's great.
When's the auction, by the way?
next week, I think.
Next week?
18th?
18th? So we probably have to move pretty quick on.
No, it's not the 18th, it's the 15th, because the 18th is on a Saturday.
I don't think we're gonna make it in time. If it's the 15th.
Well, maybe worth a quick try.
Ann, are you going this year? Usually,
I don't know, Andy.
I get in trouble.
She's gonna abstain,
if I
she's
go.
gonna abstain.
Bigger if there is a window
Mark,
we
anything
can
else?
jump into.
Okay, yeah, and we have the
Maybe
properties,
be very-
the unsafe structures the list that we've been carrying, we're starting to move forward now on some of these. So, I think Andy's going to kind of explain the process a little bit, but we have, 3 properties that we're gonna start moving forward, requesting board action on. So, yeah, Andy, did you wanna kind of explain?
Well, that's later on the agenda.
So it's, okay, it's not part of the code stuff, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Yeah, well, all right, we'll wait until we get some new business then.
Okay.
But those are on the table. All right. Any other questions from Mark related to his report? All right, looking to approve the code enforcement report.
Motion?
Ben,
Second.
second Vanessa, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, carries. Thank you. Community service report. Jerry submitted it, completed 76 hours in the past month. Projects include but not limited to weekly cleaning of the town of Hoosick office space, detailed police cars, pruned shrubs, weeded mulched, clean water plant, mowed and weeded the Little League fields. I always like talking to Jerry, just to see, because it's not just about the work, it's also trying to connect with a lot of, especially the younger kids, to see if they can get them on a good path. So, any questions on that? Looking for a motion to approve then?
Motion.
Second.
Brian, second Ben, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, carries. Clerk report. Do you want me to read it? Alright. This is gonna surprise everyone, but July was busy. Payments for the April 18th water bills and June 18th property tax bills are still coming in. Still being entered into both programs. The new water bills will be going out in a couple weeks. Completed a bunch of tax searches, genealogy reports, final water and sewer readings, and other related tasks. Normal office work, which we expanded on the list to include taking care of customers at the window, handling handicap parking permits, which there were a bunch of this time. There's one more I can't remember that we added, but the list is there. There's continued work on all of the various grant things that we're working on. Also, I've been handling the bids and pre-bid meetings for Snow Street and the highway garage at the various points that they're at. and 5 or 6 properties have sold since the last meeting, most single-family homes. Anything you want to add?
That was wonderful.
Wonderful, wonderful. Looking for motion to approve the clerk report?
Motion.
I'll give that to Vanessa. Seconds. Kevin, great, all right. I wasn't sure if you said second.
I was waiting for some blue, red.
Ben.
You think he was gonna take
Blue,
it back?
code blue.
Blue, red.
All right, all in favor? Aye, all right. Okay, carries, highway department reports. I'll read this one too, because I think Bobby is not here to normally do that. The village has tackled a whole bunch of things. They have truck replacement listed on number 1 to make sure that they know, we know that they need truck replacement. We're starting a bottle drive for that one as well. They closed out the FEMA, or the closeout meeting on the FEMA snowstorms of 2017. They've done a lot of ditch work on Congress Street. They were involved a lot in the water break on Cumming Street and issues at the pump station. The St. Mary's Park is fully restored from last year's flood, and it looks beautiful, by the way. I'm trying to think what the other highlights are. They had to replace electrical panel in the bandstand. I'm sort of skimming and giving the highlights here. Upcoming work is Abbott and Burchard Street paving, which will be on early September. Still working on figuring out a plan for UGEL's building on John Street. Working on drainage issues right now on Church Street, then they're going to move to Classic Street and other places throughout the village. And water main project on Snow Street and new highway garage have also been have had a lot of attention from them. Anything you want to add, Neil? All
I
right.
do. They removed the reclining chair that was down in the corner of John and Church Street.
Yes.
Were you gonna sit there, or?
It
Well, it was sitting there for a week and,
On the corner of John and Church?
yeah.
Whose
It said
chair
free
was
on
it?
It was-
It's just like the sofa that's on River Street, that's gonna get thrown back on somebody's front lawn.
Kevin, I saw in the corner that it was gone, so
Awesome.
it must have been right when they got it.
I think Neil got it yesterday.
Cause I drove by and I'm like, welcome to Hoosick.
Classy.
With a K.
All right.
So if I knew whose the chair was, they would've got it back on the front porch.
Well, it's not free, you could just pick some random porch and someone thinks they got a gift.
All right. Looking for motion to
Don't do that.
accept the highway
Motion.
department reports.
Second.
Ben?
Second.
Brian. Oh, no, Brian, sorry.
Vanessa
got
may
it.
have
Vanessa,
it.
you have to sucker punch him later. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Sewer department reports. Ho ho. They were also busy. Brian, you want to take this? I know Craig's normally the lead on
Okay,
sewer.
sewer, I'm sewer too.
I don't know. No, Kevin, you're the secondary on
Yeah.
sewer, right? Anything you want to highlight?
No, not really.
Ken in there?
Do the slide.
No highlights at the,
Do the slide.
They were. I know. They were helping out with the water main break and the pump station issues.
we did
They're
replace the
busy.
sewer line on Abbott Street.
Yeah.
Made repairs to the RRPS and a pump on July 4th.
Yep.
So they were out on the holiday. They pumped 24,000 gallons of sludge to the Albany County landfill. Paperwork for plant operations was completed. Daily sampling for pH, settling temperatures, and MLSS. Did monthly report for the DEC, trimmed, mowing, and other odd jobs at the pump stations, regular duties at the plant and pump stations, and collected and transported monthly samples to Adirondack Labs for testing.
I also mentioned they've been involved in the sewer project. We had a recent conference call with them talking over our next options as well.
And they need
Also, they've
11
had
grand in
a
the,
nice income for 2
money
months
from the
now.
resellers.
Yeah.
Right at the bottom.
All right. Any questions? Looking for a motion to accept the sewer department reports.
Motion.
Brian,
Second.
second Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Oh, I said opposed. Sorry, that motion carries. All right. And finally, no, we did the water report, so that completes the reports. Committee reports. Who would like to go first? Don't all
I
jump
don't
up.
have, I go first, I don't have anything.
What's that?
I don't have anything.
First, don't have anything. All right. Brian?
Greenway we've talked about already, we have a meeting coming up. LWRP is gonna have a table tomorrow at the Rock the Block, just to give some people information about our upcoming meeting, and of course we moved the date. It's the
I
next,
have that in my calendar.
the next public workshop, you have it in your calendar?
I'm looking right now.
It'll be in September, but we'll have information in a flyer on that for tomorrow. And just so people understand a little bit more of what the LWRP is and what or the point of it is. And,
I lied, I don't have it.
I can get that in a second. My
Alright.
apologies. The tree work, we got that. Working on, in terms of with economic development stuff, we have been talking for quite a while about the HUD small cities money. We have money in that account where, after a lot of phone calls back and forth, now we have to figure out if it's money that is managed by New York State, meaning it was program income after the year 2000, we're really limited what we can do with it, and they're actually gonna ask for people to start sending it back. So if any of that is from them, we probably should use it. I have a feeling a lot of it is from, and I need to meet with Denise on this, from prior to that, that's still managed at the federal level.
Okay.
HUD now gives money to the states and then they distribute it. There's different rules for what you can do with the money. As it stands, if it's New York State money, we cannot use it for economic development person. For example, if we wanted to use it to help install a water line for sprinklers, we'd have to go through a really lengthy process to prove that it would create X number of jobs and those jobs have to be related to that work, not jobs that have already created or jobs in the other business. And there'd be a whole lot of hoops to go through that they may or may not approve there. So the state has a lot more restrictions on how we use it. Federally, they actually don't have as many, so once I find out what portion of what's in there, I'll actually have an idea of what we can do with parts of it.
Okay.
Apologies for it being a lengthier process than it has to, because I'm doing the state and the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
How much, the HUD money, there's only $6,000 left in that.
No, economic development's 6, HUD is 130,000.
Oh,
So,
okay.
approximately, I believe does that sound right? From Denise, yeah, but I believe it's 130, so that's restricted as to what we can do with it. Just hanging out in there.
Alright. Thank you, Brian.
Welcome.
Ben?
I had my first SWAMA meeting,
Swama.
which is Eastern Rensselaer County Solid Waste Management Authority Association, whatever.
Nailed that, nice, perfect.
Yeah, it was
They get
really,
hats?
it was, no, but it was
Oscar the
really,
Grouch.
it was really exciting.
I bet.
Yep. When you get a lot of solid waste people sitting around talking about solid waste, it's exciting. And I had absolutely no clue as to what they were talking about, but I will be a
Garbage,
fast
Ben,
study.
garbage.
I am working with Matt Curley, who kind of heads the whole process down there. He's a really good guy to work with, so I'm gonna try and tie myself to him. You know, as far as getting up to speed on a lot of different stuff. I did get an email today, I wasn't able to read it, but it said 2019 calendar, which I guess is a big, oh, did you get that? Ann?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, alright, so I guess that's a big deal, with solid waste, and the talk at the meeting, that night was that, they tried to go without it for a year or so,
Yeah.
but people definitely wanted it, so it's something that they definitely try to work with and put all the dates in that are coming up that happens for, now I'm trying to think, we had this here at the landfill a couple of years ago, hazardous waste.
Yeah.
Collection.
I think they're talking about next year having it in Castleton, because they haven't, either there or Skodak, one of the places, they haven't had it there yet. So, but it doesn't, you don't have to live in that area, you just have to live in Rensselaer County. You can bring your stuff down there. Like they had one, a few years ago up in Scotticoke, up in that area, cause Scotticoke's a part of it. And you were able to bring your stuff up there, so as long as you're in the county, you can do that.
Okay.
And ours that we had here, a few years ago, and I don't know how many years, but it was a while ago.
It was like 3 years.
How long?
3 years ago, I think it
Was it 3? Was very successful, so,
The key
you
to
know,
the
they,
whole thing, no matter where you go, you have to register ahead of time before you go.
yeah, and that's one thing that they did bring up during the meeting, is that, we have to, people that wanna go, they have to register early before they go down, so, we'll have more information at other meetings that I go to, and I'll, pass it along, whatever I know.
Alright.
Okay?
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
And we have more to talk about with county waste, but we'll wait until later in the meeting for that.
Okay, cause I can't wait.
I bet you're
So
excited.
I'm hoping we can get there soon.
Although I'm kinda glad it's in you said Castleton?
What's that?
It's in Castleton?
Castleton.
Okay, so
That's still in Rensselaer County, right?
Castleton and Hudson, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Well, but I'm glad we don't have to mark it right now. It says bring your hazardous waste to Hoosick Falls.
Alright, Blue, you're up.
That's you.
Kevin, sorry.
Nothing.
Alright, thank you. In that case, we completed committee reports. I talked last month, we talked about introducing the department reports and those worked. I asked about if we could add another section in the agenda that's specific to grant and project business because so much of what we do at these meetings is continuing those, so this is the new section. We've already awarded the Snow Street grant bid, right? We did that earlier, so we can move on to the second one. The Woodsbrook CDBG grant. This is not related to the Woodsbrook Bryout. This is related to the grant that the town and the village are in together on. Mark, feel free to take off your code enforcement hat and put on your town supervisor hat as needed if anything comes up that way. This is the grant that we were ready to move on and accept B&L's bid, but then the CDBG people at the state said, you didn't advertise it enough, advertise it more. We advertised it more, we did a ton more advertising, and of course we got one response again, happens to be B&L. So at this point, I think we have a resolution to take on B&L as a consultant for the Woodsbrook project. And again, this is the project specific to trying to do some work in the village, but more importantly outside the village in the town to slow down the flow of the water when it comes to the village. It's sort of part one of our fix. So, do you want me to read the whole thing?
I think just reading the body of it will be fine.
Okay. Whereas the village of Hoosick Falls on June 12th, 2018 considered and passed a resolution in its village board meeting to seek qualification to select a consultant for the CDBG funded Woodsbrook Drainage Improvement Project. The consultant would provide grant administrative and program delivery services, preliminary design, final design, permitting, bidding, construction administration, and construction observation services. Skipping ahead, now therefore be it resolved that the Hoosick Falls Village Board authorizes the mayor to sign a consultant contract with B&L, Barton & LaJudas, DPC, subject to village attorney's review of the contract. So I'm looking for a motion.
Someone offers the resolution, someone seconds.
Looking for someone to offer the resolution.
I would like to offer the resolution.
Thank you, Ben.
I'd like to accept that offer.
No. You need a second. All right. So Ben and Brian, roll call vote. I'm assuming. All right. We will do it.
Brian,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Yes.
Kevin.
All right. Great. Wow. Glad we spent 2 months on that. Thank you. So that is all set. All right, and the last one. Okay. Sewer projects. Please take out the pack that I gave you. As I've started to dig into this, seeing that this is a huge deal that I want to make sure we do right, the more digging that I've done, the more I've realized that we need to make sure we understand all the details, and I want to present to you a lot. The quick backstory is we decided to not take the bids from the project initially. We decided to roll the dice, put it back out, separate it into 2 bids instead of 1 large bid, and put it out at a better season, so hypothetically the bids come back more competitive and do a better job of advertising. We received this amendment number 5. Well, let me go back through and talk budget stuff for you. So if you go on, and the pencil page is on the bottom, I don't even think the copier picked it up, but page 2 is budget 1. This was the first budget that was set up for 2015. I'm going to talk about some of the changes that have happened just so we know what's going on. And this was the original number of basically 3.8 million at the bottom of the page. It breaks down into estimated construction costs, engineering costs, other expenses, and miscellaneous expenses. When you go turn the page to 2016 in March, after sort of a year of working on this, and again this is before I got in office, some things had changed, some things had been adjusted. They made only a couple changes, and I think I starred those and marked what was added in. I don't know if the pencil picked up on it. A few things were added in. The contingency was lowered from 8% to 7.3%, but it was the same number at the end of the day. Jump over to budget 3, which is the one that came out in February of 2018. This was before we had gotten, no, this was, I think, when we had gotten the bids back and we knew they were high. And we're in the planning phases. Now, before you look at my pencil marks, there were a couple things added. In the engineering section, the bottom 2 parts, additional services, which was the 109,500, and the one below that, additional engineering, for 100,000. Those were added because they knew that they would have additional costs. I've gotten some more information on that. The reason I'm bringing this up is because we recently got sent to us, I think it was like yesterday, the day before, yesterday, Amendment 5? Amendment 5, which basically serves to update all of the language to the fact that we are now putting this out in 2 bids. Because we were putting out in 2 bids, there are extra costs, which we knew that, extra costs in design, bidding, changes in how they are going to do the construction administration and construction observation, and additional services. The request came for us, and if you go a couple pages ahead, by the way, just the bid results from there are there, but we've seen that before and nothing's changed there. If you go ahead, there's a 5-page letter that talks in detail about what the amendments, why the amendments are there and what they mean. On page 2, the redesign service change is basically because they have to put out 2 packages instead of 1. They have to take the designs that they've done and divide it into 2 bids. So there's extra cost for design on that, and that extra cost I think it came out to $22,000. The bidding changes are because when they did the first bid process, gathering all the documents, getting all the documents out, collecting the bids, all that stuff costs about $10,000. What they've come back to is say we're going to do 2 bids. We're going to do it for $7,500 each, so it combines to $15,000. The third section is construction administration. This is now handling the administration side of it instead of dealing with one contractor, one company. Since we're dividing it into 2, we are likely going to be working with 2 different ones, or the same one but over 2 different projects. So there's an additional cost on that. And they have priced that out to $38,000, and we'll come back to that in a minute. The 4th section is construction observation. Originally was $125,000. That's basically bi-weekly meetings, making sure everything is done the way it's supposed to be, keeping an eye on it, that sort of thing. Again, because it's gone from 1 project to 2, the expense has gone up quite a bit, from $125,000 to $203,000. And again, I'll come back to that. And the last one is a $22,000 increase for additional costs for the budget. Now, when I saw this, when Rich DeGuida, who works for MRB, saw this, when a couple of us saw this, our eyes kind of fell out of our heads because, holy cow, what does this mean? Over the past 2 days, I've been having a lot of conversations, asking a lot of questions to find this out. So the first thing is, do you guys see, back to the budget 3 page, which was, I think, page 4? Remember how I talked about those 2 costs at the bottom of the engineering section? Do you see the one that's $100,000 for the additional engineering costs? That number has been revised. Will be revised, assuming we approve Amendment 5, to $175,000, which basically says from what has been working previously to the new change to all the things that have to happen additionally, it's a $75,000 increase, which we knew there would be an increase. We didn't know how much, and that's part of the rolling the dice. So the question that we have right now, which I actually don't want to move on tonight because I want to get some more answers, and I want to get Craig to dive into this with his skills and going through all these crazy things. We can either approve me signing Amendment 5, which I'm not ready to do right now. We can approve the design and bidding phases only so that they can begin to work on that. Or we can table this for 2 weeks from now after Craig and Bobby are here and we have more time to look into it. When I looked into these details more, the other cost under engineering, which is the additional services for $109,500, I asked what those were for and if we've replaced those costs with Amendment 5, and the answer was no. Those are based on the previous 4 amendments, changes that have happened throughout the progress. And again, this was something that started in late 2014, hit a bunch of different delays, but there have been added costs as things have happened. So right now, the overall engineering costs, as I think I penciled in below that, would be the first 5 with Amendment 5 as it is, 766, plus the 109.5. I have questions about the 109.5, and I have questions about some of the new things in the amendments. If you guys hop ahead to the last 5 pages of the packet, what I was able to get from Rich was a breakdown of how they came up with the numbers for Amendment 5. And this is where I really want Craig to dive in on this. It's something you're going to have to turn to the side. What they did is they actually went through on every task, estimated the hours, who's the staff, and how much that's going to cost. And that's where they came up with these prices. In my mind, there may be a few things, and this is not my wheelhouse. I'm not used to looking over these things. That's why Craig is the guy. I do know that I went into the wrong field and I should have been an engineer.
That's what Vanessa just leaned over and said.
Seriously, yeah.
She pointed out the amount.
Yep.
I'll prepare
Never too late.
Yeah.
advertisement for less than $160 an hour. Gotta be crazy.
Engineers. I mean, that's. I had a lot of friends in Clarkson University because I went to Potsdam who were engineers, and those are the jobs. No, I know it. I have a couple questions that I haven't gotten answers with yet, and as soon as I get answers, I will forward these on to you. The construction administration services and the construction observation. It doesn't. The numbers don't work for me. In particular, the observation one. Even though we split it into 2 projects, the original cost for the observation was $125,000 because of all the hours you have to do, all the meetings you have to do, all the things you have to look over. But to take the same project, split it into 2, and decide that overseeing those 2 is another 62% cost, that doesn't make any sense to me. I need to get more information on that, and part of that comes into where did the original numbers come from, and how did those numbers arrive at this, and how did the original numbers come to 125 if they're saying this new one ends up becoming over 200,000? So this is a huge project that the village has been working on, unfortunately, and it's a necessary project the village has to do, and we know we've been talking about that this is going to sign us up for more debt long term. There's no way around it. We have a history in the village of infrastructure not getting a lot of focus for a couple decades, and that's what we have now. It is what it is. So the question I have for you guys is, are you comfortable approving just the design and bidding phases now for Amendment 5, or would you rather table this completely for 2 weeks and make the decision then? This is a whole bunch of data and details to throw at you, and that's why I wanted to get this packet to you guys. Andy, do you have any thoughts on this?
I certainly think each of the board members should fully understand.
Dig in what we, yeah.
This is a big undertaking for the village. Certainly, you need to be prepared before you commit to them. Not to suggest that you won't be committing to these numbers, but to be fully informed to make that decision. You're just receiving the information yesterday. You really do need time to.
And I feel like the schedule we have to putting out the 2 projects to bid, we have time to look over this and approve it in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Because I feel like our intention was to advertise in October for the pipeline laying. Around October, November, to have it open in that time span, because that span makes the most sense, because they can approve it and start the work in winter if they want. And the pump station part of the project would be advertised right at the beginning of the new year.
Okay. Part of the reason why there's a discrepancy between the 2 systems when you're comparing apples and oranges is because that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
If there's one inspector, and I know that the inspector, if it was being done at the same time, he'll have 40 to 60 hours a week watching the pipe go in and then inspecting the pump station. That's one guy. If it's 2 separate projects, he's still gonna be there for whatever time the construction crew is, putting the pipe in If they just put the pipe in all winter, I'll be there all winter. If they then come spring, put in the pump station, I'll be there for that. If they do them at the same time, I'll be only there for that given period.
Right.
It could, if it goes together, fine. If it doesn't, that's fine too. But you do need someone watching the pipe go in the ground to make sure there's no.
My question, though, to that, which I understand what you're saying, is in the original form of the project, all this work was going to be done at the same time anyway.
Yes.
So why do we all of a sudden need a second person when the two parts of the same project were going to be done? And why is there a 60% increase in cost for that?
I'm not avoiding the real issue. It's a Rich question.
Yep.
But at the same
Dave
time,
question, really.
But at the same time, it is just a logistics.
Yep.
If it's done at the same time, it'll be cheaper for us. It'll be
Okay.
easier for me.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. So I want to get this information to you guys. I want to get you an update on this so that you have time to digest it and all the sources, and you can email me any questions. And I'd like to, my mind is table this for either the special meeting or the September meeting.
Yeah, I definitely want Craig to.
I want Craig to dive in.
Yeah.
And there's a few more questions, and I'll basically just give my whole binder to Craig and say, here, go read, have fun. And he'll be like, yay, because that's Craig. That's why we love him. Okay, so in that case, I'm looking for a motion to table the approval of Amendment 5 in the sewer projects.
Motion.
Ben?
Second.
Second, Kevin. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you, and again, thank you for bearing with me. Nothing like talking numbers for 20 to 30 minutes straight. It's joyous. Okay, that concludes our portion of grant project business. Let's on to old business. Justice Court audit. That was Bobby, right? And Bobby's not here. So we will table that for next meeting.
It's just a reminder, that's
Just
all.
a reminder, okay. So, new business. Discussing concerning county waste in Urswama. Two things. The first thing is, as we talked about a meeting or two ago with Jason and others who voiced the concern, right now, if someone, say a business or a landlord who has multiple units, they are paying the regular refuse fee on monthly, right? Or quarterly or whatever it is. But if they want to bring a dumpster in, which makes sense for, you know, a 6 unit or something like that, they have to get the dumpster themselves separately, and they can't get out of paying the refuse. And that doesn't make any sense to me. And it's an easy, it seems like it's an easy fix, but this involves whatever agreement we have with them. So I think our ideal goal is to find a way to offer businesses and landlords of certain amounts of units an alternate option through county waste, which will be handled by county waste, which solves everyone's problem because it's the same folks. But so that's what we're tasking you with, Captain Urswama.
Okay.
All right. The other thing that came up, do you have that email? It was a fluky one that we noticed that we got yesterday or today. The quick story is someone who works at county waste also lives in the village, and county waste has a policy that if they live in an area where county waste delivers, they don't have to pay the garbage fee. But this letter is to confirm that this person residing at this address is an employee of Waste Connections, DBA County Waste and Recycling. As an employee of County Waste, this individual is eligible to receive complimentary waste and recycling services in areas that we provide. Although this individual resides in the village of Hoosick Falls and is currently serviced by the truck that picks up for the village, we do have another truck in the area on Thursday. This truck picks up non-village residents and is able to pick up the waste and recycling from this individual's home. Once confirmed, we will switch this individual's pickup to Thursday with a non-village truck. Should you have any further questions, please contact us. So we would have to confirm this, but it's a weird situation. So
Why don't they just refund the guy?
Yeah, it was
the
trying-
money that
Just
it costs him
refund
on a
more.
quarterly basis.
Cause that's easy.
that would be a lot easier.
That would be a lot easier.
But also note, is there a new driver? Because
Once in a while, yes.
because
I wish they'd
one
stop
took down
sending them
a rotten telephone pole is gonna come down on its own over by me, and
Well, that was very nice of them.
they couldn't wait to come in and put a brand new pole in for one wire. But he also has been, I've noticed like my garbage, he picked it up one day and really the struggle was real. Like spinning around the garbage and shaking out, you know.
I'll tell you all about it.
Yeah, please do, cause I'm finding my garbage cans all over the place.
What else is new?
No, usually mine are, you know, the
So-
struggle is not real to pick it up.
Ours
So-
could be
so note,
anywhere on Whitewood,
Brian's
one of them
residence,
up
knock
Anywhere
over the
up and
garbage
down.
cans.
That's my
there.
name.
In the driveways, on
Yeah.
whatever, in the
I thought
road.
43.
44.
I guess my driver is your now your driver.
That was you.
So I guess it sounds like we should call them back and say, can you just refund it, cause it makes life a lot easier and it
Well,
doesn't
just give her
regard
an extra
village
check or
policies.
something.
If it's real.
And it comes in.
Looks real, I mean, it's got the letterhead and everything.
Regarding the dumpsters,
How does it smell?
Regarding the dumpsters.
regarding the dumpsters, do we have any regulations in place that say they can't park those dumpsters in the front of somebody's residence?
Well, no, you can't do that. It's gotta be out back or side.
Well, I think we have a local law that says you can't leave your garbage cans out
Well, yeah.
more than
We
one
do.
day, but.
Except for they're not getting picked up, so we're all criminals.
Right.
Mine doesn't come on the day it should either.
Well, I
There
just-
have been a couple cases, I think 2 in the past
Oh,
month,
yeah.
where it came days later, sometimes it took over a
Yeah.
weekend. That stunk.
Just
No
don't wanna
pun
see-
intended.
Just don't wanna see dumpsters parked out in front of people's houses
May wanna bring
No,
that
no,
up
no,
too.
no.
all week long.
But it's upsetting, especially with the heat going out there, and it does literally stink. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
So, those are,
Oh, yeah.
sure does, those are things
Well, it
to
smells
bring
like
up and
Troy,
ask
like
about.
hot garbage.
You gonna give me that?
I've been to Troy.
Could I have, is this a
Smells like hot
copy?
garbage.
This is a copy, right? There you go. Alright, so, we'll have to reach out to them and just ask them to refund instead, cause it's easier and it doesn't involve a whole village policy that we have with them. Alright, great. Okay, next item. I'm looking for a motion to send our village court clerk to the magistrates conference from September 16th to 19th, with the cost to be split evenly between the town and village.
Right, she has a $50 registration fee and to pay for, if they room together, the town and the village, it's $5.79 for those 3 days.
Okay.
This is gonna become mandatory, they're gonna have to go now. It's-
Where's it gonna be?
Lake Placid?
Yeah.
Not quite as nice as
The casino.
where Jim had to go for his training. Training, slot
right.
down, slot up, trained, got it.
It is kinda far.
But splitting the cost between the village and the town because it serves. So looking for a motion to accept that.
Motion.
Brian, thank you. Second,
Vanessa.
Come on.
anyone?
Vanessa did.
Hey,
Thank
blue
you.
hat.
Any further questions or discussions on it?
Yeah,
What's your outdoor
did the town approve it already?
Town's meeting is next week, right?
Okay.
Is it on the agenda?
Next Monday, right?
It will be on the agenda. There's no agenda as of today.
Alright.
Yeah, kinda like us.
That
Oh,
that
I'm
was,
sorry, did I say
that was
out
very
loud?
well
I'm
earned, that was
sorry,
very well
Mayor.
earned.
Did I say
Yeah,
that
no,
out
no,
loud?
it's all good. Alright, so we're looking, any other questions? Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries, thank you. We were hoping to have 3 quotes for the police video security system, we almost have the 3rd quote. We did go back and check our village procurement policy, and it requires 3 quotes. So we were hoping to do this tonight, we'll likely do it in our, special meeting in 2 weeks, if that's alright.
Yeah, I'll definitely have the 3rd quote, he told me by Friday.
Okay, and one of the quotes is from the person who already came in and redid the keyless entry. So, we'll have all 3, back and we'll go through the process just like we do with the keyless entry. And money will come from the,
The drug.
seized, drug money. Which, by the way, we need to get some more of that, so get on that. Oh, look, here's some, and a note for the water people, that's great, alright. So I'd like to table that for next meeting, Ann, can you make a note to make sure that the
Yep.
video security system is on the special meeting agenda?
Friday, he's gonna email to me.
Yep.
You've educated me
Do
on
what?
emails.
Yes,
Hopefully, get it right over
put this
the
on the,
Speed signs?
what's that? No, it's not speed signs.
Oh.
Do you want speed signs?
Yes,
Yeah,
he
I've
does.
been trying to.
I know.
We're working on that.
Yeah, right.
There's other important things.
That's, that'll be bottle drive
Why
number
don't we just
5.
get Ann one to sit on her porch with?
Could be one of those, you know how on NASCAR they have those things that they stick out? Should be one of those. I'll stand right out there and do
We did
it.
put that in the grant, that
Say what?
were requested, but it doesn't become available.
One that
next
you can
year.
move from, like
It's the
River
ones we
Road,
go
to-
around.
I mean,
Now, some of them have a happy face for going the speed
I don't
limit,
even care
but
if
some
that's
say
that.
slow down. Can we say Ann's watching?
I like
dilemma
that.
we
you
have
just
with
come
that
over
is
and sit on the
because-
porch and watch
No,
these
when they're
things
speeding,
fly.
it says Ann's watching.
Brian, can you give us a quick talk through about the New York Alert System before we put the motion authorizing me to sign it?
Yes, this has been a way longer process than it needed to be. New York Alert upgraded their system, and we've finally going to be able to use it. New York Alert there's two components to it. There's an opt-in where residents can sign up to receive alerts via email and or text. Anything from, I made the mistake of signing up for sewage discharge. Like I didn't mean to click it, but I'm getting like 50 of them. It's everything from that all the way to a weather emergency to a vulnerable adult that's missing. You can customize what alerts you've signed up for. Don't check the box in sewage. But you can do it by county, you can do it by area. So if you work in Albany County, you can sign up for those in Rensselaer County. What they did through upgrading the system is now we can actually have Hoosick Falls and town of Hoosick specific that you'll be able to sign up for. Mark, I'm gonna get you a copy of this. The town would have to approve on their end, having what they call, basically it's a virtual border they set up for alerts. That comes into the second part. How many people like this week their phone did the whole crazy, because of flash flooding? So that's reverse 911. That's something that, this is the second part of it, where we as the village will have the authority to activate the EAS. We'll have the authority to send those out to people, whether they've opted in or not, for an extreme emergency. Which is, when we look at the flooding we had a year ago, something that could have come in handy. Hopefully it's something we don't have to really use, but it'd be good to have. Once we get this agreement signed and the state does all that, fencing, but I think they call it, I forget the term they use.
Geofencing.
It's something like, they use another term now, they've got a new word that they made up.
There's always
So,
a new word.
what's that? So, the next step, they just have to get the reverse numbers from Rensselaer County, but that's in their hands after we get this agreement signed. The agreement basically says you're not gonna do what Hawaii did, and send out the incoming missile warning to,
I remember hearing that.
or that you're not gonna misuse it. If it's not a real emergency, don't be pushing alerts like that out to people. We're gonna customize with having, I believe, 3 zones, the entire village, and then have one that's any customers on the water system, because we have a few outside the village. We
Right.
legally cannot notify town residents, Mark would have to, but water system we can. And then
Okay.
a third tier would be waterways, so Woods Brook and Hoosick River, anyone near a body of water that could flood, that if there's an issue, we can alert just those people versus the whole village.
Would the town have their own divisions
Yes.
as well? Okay.
So the town would also be, once the town signs the agreement, anything outside of the village they can do. It could be one of those emergency coordinations where if it's something for village and town, where the town could send it and also reach village residents. Or we could send
Okay.
it, you'd have the option to send it to ours, basically,
Okay.
but we can't send it to yours.
Alright, anything else you wanna add, Andy?
Yes, just a couple of things for the board to note. Brian did describe it, that this will require the village to identify a point of contact person. They have certain responsibilities. There are then persons identified as notifiers. They have to go through training. The village will have to establish policies on how this is gonna work. That's required under the agreement.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
And so all this has to be in place. All the costs associated with that are the village. The state does not cover any of that. That's in the agreement as well.
And the training is basically the webinar. Marion got to suffer through that. They do that for free.
What's that?
The training is it's a webinar. you
Oh,
do.
okay.
You were in the room when we did that. You were thinking we were doing other stuff.
And I gotta presume I would presume
Yes,
that
that's
there
right.
are some standard policies that are used routinely by municipalities or,
Do we need to adopt policies before we sign this?
no, this requires the village to put
Okay.
those policies in place, so
I'm-
that you have to do that before you're implementing the system.
Okay.
It's basically the protocol for determining what is an emergency.
Sure.
And it's not a, gee, I don't know, is this sort of a, there's
Well, and the people
specifically
that are gonna be
outlined.
notifiers,
Yes.
you know, they gotta go through the credentials.
Yep.
Gotta make sure that they're
Yep.
responsible, right?
Yep.
Because they're gonna be operating the system.
We don't need to decide those people right now, correct?
No,
Okay.
but the agreement does require you to have the point of contact person and then those identified as notifiers, and
All
then
right.
they go through the training and you have your policies in place. The agreement also does include release and indemnification language to the state, so simply advise your insurance that many times the carriers will get a little nervous about having contractual releases. I just wanna make sure that they're aware of this and that
Okay.
that doesn't cause any issue on your general liability policy.
Okay. All right. So in that case, I am looking for a motion to authorize myself as mayor to sign this agreement to use New York Alert System.
motion.
Brian? Second Vanessa. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brian, for all the work on this. I think, Mary, thank you as well.
I've just been a pain, as a reminder.
That's all right.
You've been seeing my pain and trying to get this done.
Now, can I ask a question now?
Yes.
Yes.
We've got this agreed now, what is the time frame for us on this, actually to, you know, we were hoping that this was gonna get set up by June and we're past June.
I think we were hoping to get set up a year ago, to be honest.
We're probably a
right?
couple,
Well,
probably
I
a
will
month or two
say
away.
probably 3 years ago,
Yes.
but
Before my time. So once this agreement is signed, we do what's required of it. It's a matter of determining who sends alerts, who has that control. I would assume
We
it'd be
can
mayor, deputy mayor, and then probably a third trustee just as a
Mhm.
backup. And have our policies into place. One of the things, for example, remember on the call was, have a phone, you unlock with your thumbprint, not where if you lose your phone, somebody can't be sending alerts out.
Right.
That part is going to be relatively quick. The ability
Good
for us
about
to
that.
push the reverse 911 could take some time through Rensselaer County, and if they aren't going to expedite it, we'll talk to our legislators to move that along.
I think it sounds like we'll work on the policy and we'll have to adopt the policy in a meeting, Andy, so we'll
Yeah.
try to see if we can get it adopted at the September meeting.
Yeah.
Make decisions and, okay, great. Alright, the next three resolutions we're offering, this is regarding the flood, financing, cost the village took on in July of 2017. These, come from our bond council, Garrett DeGraff and Andy, and Denise have been doing a lot of work on this. Do you have the actual resolutions? The basic gist, I can't explain this, this is so weird.
Can I give you a quick summary?
Please, God, do, yes.
There were a series of resolutions adopted for financing associated with the costs incurred on the flooding. Long and short of it is, there are 3 resolutions. For each resolution that needs to be published, and an estoppel certificate needs to be published, and that has to be published within a certain period of time.
Can you explain what that is?
You have to notify the public that the bond was adopted and give a short summary. And then what the estoppel notice is if someone wants to challenge that as an inappropriate expenditure or taking on of additional debt, it limits the time within which someone has to challenge it. That's the estoppel notice. You're stopped from challenging it unless you bring it within a certain period of time. Both of those need to be published within a fairly short period of time after the bond resolution's adopted. There were some issues regarding that publication, and the first resolution in front of you would actually repeal 2 of the earlier resolutions and then re-adopt them for purposes of publication of the summary and the estoppel notice. Doesn't change any of the substantive provisions, it's really just a, if I can use the phrase, it's a redo on those 2 and making sure they're published
Right.
timely.
Okay, thank you, Ed.
So we have to repeal the one and then do
You
it
did
again.
not wanna hear me try to explain all
The
that.
first resolution is to repeal
Repeal and
2,
revoke, yes.
and then the subsequent 2 would be to re-adopt each one.
Okay, there you go. Alright, resolution 1, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls, Rensselaer County, New York, the village, that the following 2 resolutions adopted on January 31st, 2018 are hereby repealed and revoked in whole pursuant to paragraph 1 of subsection A of section 41.0 of the local finance law. First, a resolution authorizing waterway and highway repairs and improvements in the village of Hoosick Falls, Rensselaer County, New York, authorizing the issuance, of serial bonds of said village in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $370,000 pursuant to the local finance law to finance said purposes, and delegating the power to issue bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the sale of such bonds to the village treasurer. That was the first one. And the second one, a resolution authorizing repair and improvements of curbs, sidewalks, and gutters in the village of Hoosick Falls, Rensselaer County, New York, authorizing the issuance of serial bonds of said village in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $40,000 pursuant to the local finance law to finance said purpose, and delegating the power to issue bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the sale of such bonds to the village treasurer. So again, these are to repeal and revoke. I need someone to introduce the resolution.
Introducing resolution to repeal and revoke.
Brian?
Second.
Second, Vanessa, thank you. Any discussion? Need a roll call vote?
Mally,
Yes.
Ben, Brian,
Yes.
Vanessa, Mayor.
Yes. All right. Now, this is the second resolution. This is a resolution authorizing waterway and highway repairs and improvements in the village of Hoosick Falls, Rensselaer County, New York, authorizing the issuance of serial bonds of said village in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $370,000 pursuant to the local finance law to finance said purposes, and delegating the power of issue bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the sale of such bonds to the village treasurer. And again, it refers. The reason we had two of these is because had something to do with a tax.
It has to do with different sections of the local finance law and tax treatment.
Okay. It's a lot. I'm not going to read it because it's the same in a sense. But I need someone to introduce it.
Mm-hmm.
So looking for someone to introduce that
Motion
resolution.
to introduce.
Ben, thank you. Second.
Second.
Kevin. Just barely. Just.
Oh, I
Just
I didn't
barely.
even hear him.
didn't even hear him.
That's all right. I can both sides of you.
Vanessa,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
and
Yes.
Kevin, and Mayor.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. And three. A resolution authorizing repair and improvement of curbs, sidewalks, and gutters in the village of Hoosick Falls, Rensselaer County, New York, authorizing the issuance of serial bonds of said village in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $40,000 pursuant to the local finance law to finance said purpose, and delegating the power to issue bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the sale of such bonds to the village treasurer. Looking for someone to introduce the resolution?
Motion to introduce.
Thank you, Vanessa. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are gutters in that? What does that mean?
Curbs, sidewalks, and gutters.
Yeah. What are gutters?
It's where the chief
I know what
finds
gutters
you
are,
after
but
you've
what are
had
they?
too much
I'm
of the
sorry.
sandbar.
Where the curb and the street meet.
Okay. They call that a gutter? Okay. Okay. No, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
This work that's been done,
I would have called it
I'm
curb.
thinking of a gutter as being
Yeah, it's work
up,
that's
not
been done
being
that
down.
since we didn't get the FEMA declaration, we get to eat the cost ourselves. And
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying, it's where the chief finds you after you've had the sandbar.
Any other questions?
Because you're lying in the gutter.
All right.
You mean any of the stupid?
Kevin,
No, that's all right. Roll call votes. Kevin.
Yes.
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 Vanessa, Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Here they are. There you go. All right. The next thing was we had started talking about with Mark on code enforcement. Mark is going to present us, I think, with the engineering reports that we've been looking into the possibility of unsafe structures. Mark, do you want to take it away and introduce the first one for us? All right. In that case, we'll have Dave Lucas do
1
it.
minute per, Neil said that 1 minute per property.
All right. Well, yeah. Well, no. In all seriousness, this is something we've been looking into and working on the process for many months. So this is our first time doing this, but I expect that we'll have additional properties to go on, and in a similar way that we got, the code enforcement has its own court case day now, and its own in the month, and if people don't show up, they now have bench warrants. It's another precedent-setting thing, so this is another sort of good step forward in educating us all in the
Right,
process.
there's stories behind each one of these properties too, that, you know, and I think one of the takeaways from maybe like this first one, when you talk about Waldron Avenue, you know, from the very get-go, I think there's something out there where when a house does burn to the point where it needs to be torn down, there are steps I think the village can take initially so that we don't have to get to this point to make sure either if there's insurance money, that it's used to take down the building.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if there was in fact insurance money here or not, there could have been, and they just took it and walked away and said, you know, you guys deal with it, I don't know, but that is a possibility or that is something that does actually happen, so that could be something that could be a takeaway from this property, and we can talk about that, you know, maybe going forward if the situation arises again.
Andy, do you want to talk about process before Mark introduces
Sure.
these?
And just before I jump into this one, Mark is correct. There is legislation that municipalities are authorized to adopt a local law. You have to do it through a local law. Where if a structure does burn and needs to be demolished, there's a provision in place that the municipality can notify the state insurance department, and if insurance proceeds for that structure are issued, the municipality has a lien on them and can force the demolition to actually use the insurance proceeds. So you don't have a situation where there may have been, we're not sure if insurance proceeds were issued and the demolition never occurred, you just walk away with the insurance money, and then what do you do?
Right.
What we're doing is this. The village, and I'm not sure if you actually utilized this previously, but it has a local law from 2008 which identifies unsafe buildings within the village and gives both the building department and the village board the authority to order that the structure be addressed, and that could be either through repair or through demolition, depending on what the inspection shows. The procedure is once a property is identified, and usually that comes through the building department, in order to create the kind of foundation for that is to have an engineer, structural engineer, go to the property with the building department, do an inspection, and generate a report. That creates the expert foundation for determining whether the structure has any safety issues.
They're in the packet, each of these.
They're in there, and Mark will step through that. And then depending on that report, Mark reviews that and makes a letter report to this board. What Mark's letter report to the board is a summary. It says, we've done the inspection, there are these issues, and makes a recommendation. What the duty of the board to do is to review and make a determination whether the building is unsafe under your local law. If you do that, then there are certain recommendations that the engineer and Mark will have on whether the structure can be repaired. And if yes, you have the authority to order the property owner to make those repairs within a certain period of time. If the structure is too far gone and it's determined that it needs to be taken down to be demolished, then the board likewise has the authority in the local law to require the property owner to complete that. The time frame under the local law is to commence those activities within 15 days. If the property owner fails to do that, the local law empowers the village to go in and do the demolition work and charge the owner back for those costs. Understand this is an upfront cost for the village. You do incur those costs initially. You charge that cost back to the property owner. If the property owner fails to pay that, it gets re-levied as a tax. And ultimately, if that is not paid, this village is reimbursed by the county, and the county will then add it on as unpaid tax and has the ability then to foreclose and recoup their money through tax sale. So that's the procedure to try to address buildings that have fallen into disrepair and causing structural issues. There are a few that the building department, certainly in the mayor, have looked at and had inspection reports. So I think the best way to do it is to go by property and let Mark describe the property and the report and the recommendations. There are a series of, there's a resolution and then there's a notice, and I'll step through that once Mark reviews the property.
Okay.
So the first one we're gonna start with is 5 Waldron Avenue, and that's the one I already alluded to. That was the burned out structure up there, and you know, that one really is a no-brainer. There's way too much damage done on that house. We have multiple complaints. There's There's quite a bit of paperwork with this, I think because of everything that was involved in this, the communications that were involved. So you're seeing the things, the initial report that Andy already alluded to. You have a copy of Bill Cottrell's report. Somewhat limited, can't really go in the house. It's all based on observations from the outside of the house, but really it's not too difficult. The complaint action summary is actually my report that I do. It's the system that we use, so on all the cases that I open, I have a complaint action summary for all of it. So this kind of just is giving you kind of an overview of this, of what kind of took place throughout this whole thing. There's some copies of the emails. The chief did a request of the homeowner at one point. That's in here. So it's just all of the information that kind of that's brought us to this point.
I have a question about that, because I was looking through this. I would assume that some of the stuff in here is confidential.
Yes, and so.
Because there's some details in here I'm looking at, I'm like, oh, that would have to be a confidential detail.
Right, and ultimately, the notice, if the board, right now, it's information for the board's purposes. Ultimately, if the board determines that the property is unsafe under the local law and orders its demolition, a notice is served on the property owner, and the property owner gets a copy of Mark's letter and only the engineering report, not the full file.
Okay.
So it would be limited to Mark's cover letter summarizing and the Cottrell engineering report.
So just be aware of that if we're talking any details in this meeting.
So it is good for you guys to see this stuff, because if you do ever have other questions or you want to see more detail, it generally is available. So you have it all here for the Waldron, and obviously the recommendation here, based on Bill Cottrell's report, is that this property needs to come down. It needs to come down soon.
Yeah.
It's a safety
Was this
issue.
damage just over a course of time, or was it like this from
This was
after
the fire.
From the fire.
Why couldn't they have condemned that right off after the fire and made them tear it down with their insurance, so they don't get to this point? Is that?
It was condemned.
I
But-
tagged it as uninhabitable. There was extenuating circumstances where, it just,
And we've had communications with multiple parties who were involved in this situation. Things pursued down a path, it didn't pan out. They may still pan out, but I think it makes sense for us to continue on this.
I just seen typically in Troy and other places where if a house is bad enough, they immediately tear the building down the next couple of days and then it's billed them automatically on the insurance for a structure like that.
Yeah, what can happen in those situations is if it's in danger of immediate collapse, then that's an emergency situation, that's a separate situation, and the municipality can go in and knock it down and charge that back to the owner.
Is that related to the fact that it's close to like heavily operating roads?
Yes, if it's in danger of collapse and it's a threat to, the public in general, adjacent properties, sidewalks, things like that, happens much more often in urban settings where the buildings are close together, it's near sidewalks, it's near pedestrians. But in an emergency situation, right, there are different rules associated with that.
Okay.
Here, the issue of the structure fire, it's close, right, and it may have been handled differently. There were, as the mayor suggests, some discussions, some extenuating circumstances. For those situations, I would recommend that the board consider having a local law prepared that would authorize you to immediately send notification into the insurance department to lien those insurance proceeds.
I'm just saying,
That makes sense.
moving forward, that rather than get into situations like this, we
Yeah.
act swiftly and make sure they don't sit around for another couple of years after the fact.
Correct.
which is why I said right off the bat, that it's definitely a takeaway for this particular.
Yeah. Okay.
We should have something.
When was the first, I looked through this a little bit, when was the first time they were notified it had to be demolished? Because
Couple days
if
in.
the fire happened, December 28th?
28th, yeah.
When were they first notified it's gotta come down?
It's the date of bills.
I feel like
It's the date of the engineers.
The engineering study? Was that the first official? No, I see a permit to come down here. I just wanted to see, like, was there,
I think there was ongoing discussions almost from the day of the fire.
and judging by here, that was a difficult, yes, I see there's a situation there where that probably, complicated things, so.
It definitely got complicated and it got confusing
Yeah.
because the person who ended up being the lead person that we're talking to is not the owner of the property.
Right, and it was a
that-
relative, and then, yes.
Yes.
That,
So, although she was an occupant of the house.
Right, and that's,
Time
it's
of
been this like 3 times removed.
And, the father of the owner of the house was involved and, had me removed from the fire scene that
Yeah, I
day.
see the whole.
So there's a lot of things that, were going on.
I guess I just want to see if it, just again to go with what Kevin's saying too, that we also make sure that if there's a situation like this, that we have some sort of window in which we notify, hey, that's gotta come down. Just, I don't see where it's documented in here that it had to, so, but I also know there's a whole other side to this too, or not
I think we were also trying to give a little bit of leeway because of the circumstances of the fire and who was living in there, to
Yeah.
give them some time to do it and pursue
And
it.
it was new for all of us.
Yeah.
There's a learning curve involved here a little bit.
Well, I guess it's the other side, I think it's the first, I remember Center Street fire, that was a house that, usually they're torn down pretty quick. So whatever, I just hope we can learn from this to make sure we expedite
Yeah.
the process later.
Do we have a local law, like you suggested, do we have any local law on record about taking something down immediately if it's an emergency?
I'll, you know what, I don't know the answer to that. I'll look to see if you have that.
Okay,
There's something we could do through the code.
Right.
okay.
I mean, more clearly, it's, I mean, you drive by, it's
Right.
not, it's.
If
pointing
anything-
out on the engineering study, what's the cost, do we think? And where do we get the money from? That's my only question, cause I agree it needs to go, but where?
We have a money tree right out back.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
See, that's, the easy part for me is we can do all of this.
The
and
money
then-
part's us.
Yeah,
Right.
here you go type of thing. Yeah, you guys are that's a tough one. But these are the issues that I have responsibility to bring.
And reading through here that they attempted to get an asbestos investigation but couldn't because the structure was unsafe for people to
Yep.
enter, so it has to be torn down as if it's contains asbestos,
correct.
so that cost
Yep.
increases.
Yep.
I know that his quote in here for demolition was pretty low, $15,000 I saw in here from,
15?
wasn't it 15,000?
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't
Well,
see that, but that's way
yeah.
low if that is.
I think that was
Yeah.
a pretty naive quote without taking
Yeah.
into consideration the asbestos.
Was that one of the emails,
Um,
Kevin?
Yeah.
And there was some question, I think there was some question early on about whether or not it actually needed to have the asbestos survey based on the build date of the house or something. He was trying to, remember we had that back and forth a little bit there, but I think it was determined that he actually did have to have
Correct.
the asbestos survey, which they couldn't do, which meant it still had to proceed as an asbestos.
Alright. So for this situation, Andy, with this property, we need to introduce a resolution specific to this building, that we are determining that it's unsafe and dangerous, directing that notice be served upon the owners, a public hearing to be set and ordering its demolition and removal, is that correct?
It is, so what's in front of you is the resolution that first makes certain findings. You've reviewed the Cottrell report, listened to the building department, and make a finding that the structure is unsafe. And once you do that, then you do order that the building be demolished, the structure be demolished. That written notice of that order be served on the property owner. Under your local law, they have 15 days in which to commence that work. And then, just as a matter of due process, if the owner disagrees with that finding that it's unsafe and needs to be demolished, they have the right to have a hearing in front of this board. So this board sets the date for that hearing in the order, and they put that in the notice served on the property owner. How this will work in practice is they need to commence within 15 days. If they disagree with that, object to that, there will be nothing commenced within 15 days. Depending on when you set the date for the hearing, they will come in and present their proof that, no, we think the board is incorrect, the structure is not unsafe, it can either be repaired or it doesn't need any work. You hear that proof, you have to consider it, you can adhere to your finding that it is unsafe, or you can listen to their proof and say, okay, there are other options here. That's simply the hearing, that's due process. If you then ultimately determine, no, the building is unsafe and does need to be demolished, if they don't then demolish within that 15-day period, then the village is authorized to go in. So the resolution makes the finding that the structure is unsafe. It directs that a notice be served on the property owner. That directs the demolition to start within 15 days, but you also set the date and time and location for hearing in front of the board.
With the hearing, does that have to be an open public hearing, or can that be a private?
It's open.
It's open.
Because it's in front of the board,
Mhm.
and once the board's in quorum conducting business, it's subject to the open meetings law.
Can that be something that we, if it, in with that is a separate date than a board meeting for the sake of?
You can certainly set a
Giving that-
special meeting date for that hearing.
So, assuming we do this, do we wanna set the public hearing times for the special meeting that we're having, the extra meeting in 2 weeks, or do we wanna wait until the September meeting?
You won't have time.
Well, I'd rather
to
not do it
wait.
at the same time as a meeting, a regular special meeting. I'd rather it's its own meeting.
It could be its own.
It can be its own meeting, subject to a special meeting notice. It can be at a regular meeting. I've seen it done both ways.
I have a feeling, based on just with this one and the history here and that we're looking, that we probably should have a special one for this, because if it is requested, this could be a very long.
So we're gonna, so that's 2 special meetings, 2 special meetings.
I mean, you guys can disagree, but I think so that it doesn't overshadow.
I'm going away the 28th.
I mean, how
Remember
could they
that
argue
this
that it's not a structure?
Because cuckoo could chew Mrs. Robinson, you never know.
Well, it could be, but remember,
Just saying, Mark.
the issue for the
Yeah.
hearing and the issue in front of the board to consider is whether the building or the structure is unsafe.
Right.
Not the history of how it happened. and
No,
what
but I'm
happened,
also-
but it's literally
Correct.
just the technical issue
21st,
of the
Tuesday, 2
unsafety
Tuesdays
of the
from now.
building.
How do you shut that off?
But I'm just looking
Not
at
yet.
the history in front of us and trying to make
How
sure
you shut
we're,
this guy
It's
off?
true.
We're gonna go through and do all 3 of them, it would make sense.
all 3 at one meeting, yeah.
My preference would be to throw it on the 21st, because we already have a special meeting then to do highway garage bid. I know that's not your preference,
You
but
really hate us, don't you?
otherwise we have to have another special
Oh, no.
meeting, like a special,
Well,
special
some
meeting.
municipalities have planning meetings twice a month, so,
That's true.
you know.
What do you guys think?
Zoning board hearing.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, I'm fine
What's your
with it,
first motion?
Alright,
He introduced it.
sorry, Brian.
I'm opposed to doing it in a special meeting. I think that these 3 should be in a meeting together.
Now, the resolution has a spot for setting the hearing.
Mhm.
So does that mean when I read the resolution, I have to include the date, or do we have to set a separate, do a motion to set it on
No,
that?
we'll talk about that, and that'll be part of this
Yeah.
resolution.
Well, you have to get the 15 days in there also.
And this is how this procedurally
I
sets up.
Oh.
If it's the 21st, you can sit, you don't have to wait the 15 days. You can
Okay.
set your hearing
Okay,
either within those 15 days or following it. You've got to give reasonable notice. What's reasonable notice? Usually it's at least 10 days,
okay.
okay? It can be longer if you choose. It can be after the 15 days to see if they want to do
Yeah.
something. You could wait an additional week, set it later in August.
May I also remind you that 22 John, we've seen already how that could play out.
Well, that situation has changed because there's been a couple, court appearances.
I'm just saying
And,
that, looking in front of us, not that I wanna be your extra knights, but
Understand,
So-
I understand what you're saying. I know I don't wanna be here extra nights either, but, you know, with the right people here and so on, we'll keep things civil and organized. Alright, so can I read the resolution with the current date of the 21st set? Do you want me to read the whole now therefore be it resolved portion?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a resolution pursuant to section 5 of Hoosick Falls Local Law Number 1 of 2018, determining that a building is unsafe and dangerous, ordering its demolition, removal, and directing that notice be served upon the owner. Now therefore be it resolved by the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls in regular session duly convened as follows. Number 1, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls does hereby find and determine as follows. A, that the report of the code enforcement officer dated August 6, 2018, and the consulting engineer's report prepared by Cottrell Associates dated February 27, 2018, find that the building located at the subject's premise is unsafe and dangerous, in danger of collapse, and constitutes a threat to public safety as contemplated under Hoosick Falls Local Law Number 1 of 2008. B, that based on such reports, the said structure located at 5 Waldron Avenue, Rensselaer County Tax Map number 27.19.7-7-18, consisting of a 2-story wood-framed house which has suffered a structural fire, the record owner of which is Aaron Mulready, is unsafe, dangerous, and constitutes a hazard to public safety, is beyond any possible repair, restoration, or remediation, such that said structure must be demolished and removed from the structure from the subject premises upon which they are situated. 2. Based on such findings, in consideration thereof, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls does hereby order as follows. A. That the structure located at 5 Waldron Avenue, consisting of a 2-story wood frame house which has suffered a structural fire with record owner of Aaron Mulready, shall be demolished and removed by the owner. B. That a written notice of the above findings and order of this Village Board of Trustees in the form annexed hereto shall be served forthwith by the code enforcement officer on the owners of the said premises. C. That the demolition and removal of said structure from the subject premises upon which it is situated shall commence within 15 days after service of the said notice. D. A public hearing shall be conducted by the Village Board of Trustees on the 21st day of August 2018 at 6 p.m. at the Village of Hoosick Falls Village Offices, 24 Main Street, Hoosick Falls, New York.
Not to interrupt you here,
Yes.
but if you've got other business that you need to do on that evening, you may want to adjust the time for that hearing to, I don't know, what you anticipate for your regular business, but you may want to get that regular business completed and then hold the hearings.
Okay.
All right, so.
Or do it a different night.
So if I don't know how long you anticipate your agenda items, but if you set it at 6:30 or soon thereafter, it can be heard.
Can we set it for 6:30 or soon thereafter?
Mm-hmm.
All right, because right now it's highway garage and
4 or 5 on
Yeah, there's some things that are piled up on
Police.
that.
there already.
Police.
Thing on
what's
there.
the police thing on? Oh, the yep,
Security cameras.
highway garage security camera bids.
It won't take long, just.
I mean, just look over and accept them. That shouldn't be an issue. Let's say 6:30
You
or
do have the sewer,
Mm-hmm.
the MRP amendment.
right.
6:45.
That's right. All right. 6:45 then.
How about on
The
August
55 pages that
22nd?
we're gonna read between now and 2 weeks from now.
I'm a no on this because I don't think this should be the same time for another meeting.
Well,
6:45, 7:50.
we can set them all 6:45 or here and after.
Yeah.
We can set them 6:45 or soon thereafter, it can be
Okay.
heard. Yeah.
Doesn't each one need its own time? Or can they all be a
No,
blanket
they
time?
can be noticed or as soon thereafter. One will.
Okay. So D, a public hearing shall be conducted by the Village Board of Trustees on the 21st day of August 2018 at 6:45 or here and after at the Village of Hoosick Falls, Village Offices, 24 Main Street, Hoosick Falls, New York, 12190, regarding such unsafe structures, the reports issued in connection therewith, and the order to demolish and remove the same, and finally E, that in the event the said structure is not demolished and removed from the subject premises upon which it is located, as herein ordered, this Village Board of Trustees shall provide for and cause the said structure to be demolished and removed, and cause of costs and expenses incurred in connection therewith to be assessed against the land upon which said structure is located as provided in Section 5F of Hoosick Falls Local Law 1 of 2018. So I need someone to offer that resolution.
I'll offer the resolution.
Ben, thank you. I need a second.
Second.
Kevin, we need a roll call vote.
That's it.
No.
Kevin?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
If we're setting a precedence, we should actually do this on a separate night to show that we mean business with this and not lump it in with other business, because this is a
But it
very.
won't be, it'll be at the end of that business.
But this is a very, all three of these are a very serious action we're taking, and I think that they warrant the respect of their own evening.
All right. Okay, one's down.
Right, and just to finish up, the form of the notice that will then get served on the property owners is there. That will also be amended to include the hearing date. We'll fix that, Ann. This is actually signed by you as attesting to that as village clerk. We'll get that coordinated tomorrow, because we should get those served right away. We're gonna set the 21st.
Okay. Mark, what's the second property?
The next property is 6 Spring Street.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said initially, each one of these has a story. This is kind of a sad story. But unfortunately, if anybody went and took a ride by this house, it's a no-brainer. It's not safe. It wasn't safe before the flood, and I would not let her go back after the flood, because the flood did affect the house even more as far as the foundation goes.
By the way, Andy, this one could collapse into the Woods Brook
Absolutely.
near the end. So when we're constructing that law about possibility of fire emergencies, this would also need to be on the radar. Because if that house did collapse into the Woods Brook and we had a huge storm, that area, I mean, it's near the end of the chute, but that area would be
Why they didn't put the wall up?
worrisome. I don't know. Well, we'll be doing it soon, hopefully.
So basically, based on my own observations and the Koshua report, I am recommending that we follow the same procedure at this house be taken down.
And you were actually in the process of getting ready to red tag it as uninhabitable right before the flood happened, if I recall.
It was already red tagged.
There already was, okay.
Yeah, recently I was down there, I worked on another property and noticed that things had changed even more.
Okay.
So I actually have taken some red warning tape and wrapped it around the whole house, only because she was still going there and feeding animals and stuff like that, and going on the house, or on the porch, in the house, and it really is not a safe situation at all.
Yeah. Okay. Any other details to share with us?
They used to call the area Cold Springs, by the way.
There are springs down there.
Yeah, they used to-
From talking to the neighbors and
think
stuff,
they're in
there
her
still are
house.
springs.
Donna Parker used to live there. There was one in her basement.
Wow.
There's a stream in her basement.
Huh.
Parker's
Yeah.
house, yeah.
That's fascinating. All right.
So the same resolution.
So
It
it's the
is-
same.
It is the same resolution.
Same
just dealing
resolution.
with,
The
They're
only
just
modification is the address, which is 6 Spring Street.
Is it 6 or 16?
6.
It's
Okay.
6.
Because the gray one on right next to it was 15. That's why I just want to double check that.
It is 6.
So I basically would like to introduce the same resolution with the only changes being the address at 6 Spring Street, the county tax map of 27.15-13-26, and the record owner identified as Florence Kennedy. Everything else, Kinney. Nothing else would change, and the same public hearing date would be set, Brian's favorite time, of on or about 6:45 p.m.
I do think,
21st.
hearing Brian again, to identify that each one is important, I think the board should consider setting this public hearing at 7 or soon thereafter, and then the next one 7:15 or soon thereafter.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So they're not stacked at the same time.
All right.
That's good.
I'll bring pizza.
Compromise.
I'm still voting no.
You heard that, right?
They should be their own day.
What?
I heard that.
Yeah, I heard that.
You said you
Set it on the
bring
record. I'll bring
Well,
pizza.
everyone's
I'll
voting
do
yes
it.
anyway.
So can I offer that?
So yes, Kevin has offered it.
I'll
I need a
second.
second.
You
Ben.
got it. Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Did I say?
Yes.
Trustee Bush.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Kevin. Mayor.
Yes. All right, and the final one.
Final one is 22 John Street, and again, based on on my own personal observations and that of Cultural Associates and his reports, I recommended to the village that property be torn down also.
Andy, is it worth mentioning anything that's been going on?
Right, so the board knows this property is subject to outstanding citations that have been pending in village court. We've been dealing with Mr. Daniel directly recently. In fact, in July, he did retain counsel, and we've now been working with his attorney. I would report that that's been positive. The attorney is counseling Mr. Daniel on the status of the property and the outstanding citations. We're in court today, requested 1 month to pursue this procedure to determine that the structure is unsafe and needs to be demolished. We reviewed that with Mr. Daniel and with his counsel today. They understand that. I can report that if the board does determine to move forward on that structure, his counsel has authorized service on him, so we can review that with Mr. Daniel. It is likely that he will come in to the board and avail himself of the hearing process, but they fully understand that that building has structural issues and that the citations are held in abeyance. We've got a 1 month adjournment to see if the property owner will agree to take the building down.
Do we set time limits on when people speak? The public hearings?
Should have done another night.
Just a point of reference.
I think he will be with counsel at that hearing, so I think there'll be some order to it.
Okay.
Mark, is the other building, then, what's the status of the one next to it?
Can we address that right now?
That's what we'll be working on. You'll be getting more information on that.
Yep, down the road, yeah. Alright. Okay, in that case, I'd like to, again, ask someone to introduce a resolution. The only changes being, the address location is 22 John Street, the tax map number is 27.15-14-7. It is a 1.5 story wood frame structure with full basement, and the record owner is identified as Jonathan R. Daniel and Susan R. Daniel, according to the title search, correct?
Correct, brother and sister, and that brings up another point to make
Yes.
sure that we've identified the correct current title owners. We've had title for these properties updated. The 3 properties, the title is confirmed, and those folks that were identified in the resolution. Your question about 18 John Street, there is a title issue associated with that we're tracking down.
Otherwise, and the public hearing will be set for 7:15 p.m. since we set the last one at 7 and the one before at 6:45 on the 21st of August. No other changes. For someone to introduce or to offer?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Ben, thank you.
Second.
Second, Vanessa. Any further discussion? All right. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
As much as I'd love to take the first whack at this building, no. I'm not gonna.
That's fine. It's fine.
Doesn't matter anyway, 'cause everyone's a yes.
I like you sticking to your guns. That's what I
am.
like. I like it.
You
All right.
all are going to be able to say, "I told you so."
I told you so.
I'm not
And
giving
you're
you
all
any
going
pizza
to
then.
say,
Brian, just to be clear, your objection is only with the time of the meeting, not necessarily with the fact that these buildings are.
I agree, the buildings, like I said, I'd love to take the first whack on that one, but it's the day. Just to be clear, I'm in
Okay.
support of taking them down.
Thank you. Anything else for these, Mark and Andy? I know this has also been a lot of work going into getting to this point, so thank you guys for that.
Only that we'll coordinate and get the notice finalized. We'll get that done in the morning. We'll get
Okay.
that signed, and we'll coordinate on service.
I have one final question for the board before we
Well, that's too
go
bad.
into executive session. Do you guys remember when Rich Elder was here from the county talking about the Healthy Homes Initiative and the plan they have? I actually know the person who is doing the work for the program. She's already come to our house, and I was blown away at the amount of free stuff that's available, and how much they will offer to help you explain how cleaning works. So, if, with your permission, I'd like to just make a quick video with her and myself explaining the process to put out on Facebook, so that people can understand that you can get free smoke detectors, free carbon monoxide protectors, free cleaning supplies, and explanations on how to do all these things like search for lead, and it's incredible, and it's free.
Do you just put free in, I think that'll do the trick.
It's free. Like, I should put in the bottom the whole time. Free. So is that okay with you guys?
Do I have to make a motion?
Is that like the chair
No,
that's on
I
the
just
corner
do
of
it.
John Street?
Yeah,
That's
corner of
not
John
free.
Street. We'll do the video at there.
I did include that information in our letter today to some tenants.
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
don't sit on the chair.
All right. In that case, I'm looking for, unless there's any other business you want to bring up, I'm looking for a motion to go into executive session to discuss ongoing litigation with no other business to be discussed after.
Motion.
Second.
Ben, second Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We are going into executive session at 8:37 PM.
Ben, you could have been the
Thank
one, no.
I should have said no.
Come on.
Absolutely awful.